Chapter 142. Wasn't easy to put up a strong front. Roar, just as Yuanwan relaxed. An earth-shattering growl of a tiger suddenly resounded from somewhere close behind her. The vibration was so strong that even the floor shook. Yuanwan, who had just claimed that she wasn't afraid, was so scared out of her wits that she immediately pounced onto Siyihan. Siyihan, who was being pounded on the chest by the girl with the buns, Su-yi. After Yuanwan regained her senses, she glanced at Siyihan, embarrassed. She then followed by glaring at the white tiger, who had its snow-white fur stained with fresh blood and was charging towards her ferociously and roaring continuously at her. She was fuming mad. Damn it! Why is it roaring at me all of a sudden? I managed to keep it together for so long, but all my efforts just went to waste. It wasn't easy to put up a strong front. When the white tiger saw Yuanwan jumping onto Siyihan, it stopped moving but still paced around the sofa as it stared at Yuanwan in a hostile manner. Its gaze was exactly the way you would look at an intruder. This white tiger was Siyihan's pet that he kept in Jean Garden. The Jean Garden was surrounded by a big, dense forest, and white tigers often roamed around the forest by themselves. The white tiger's name was Si Lu Te, which translated to slaughter in English. You'd know it was a fearsome beast and not some tame house cat just going by its name. In her previous life, Yuanwan hated and feared this white tiger almost as much as how she felt towards Siyihan. However, after she was reborn, although she just saw it breaking the man's neck and roaring like a beast, she didn't have a deep hatred and revulsion towards it. Instead, she felt a sense of nostalgia and guilt. Previously, it was this white tiger that saved her life countless times. In order to block the path of people chasing after her, it got trapped. She witnessed the white tiger being murdered by those people till its final breath, all while trying to protect her. Yuanwan suddenly became teary-eyed. In the eyes of Siyihan, he probably thought she was in tears from the fright. Certainly, a sneer came from her side. It was the black-shirt teenager who had carried out the execution, Ming Luing. As the saying goes, enemies are bound to meet. This teenager looked quite young, but he was secretly the most formidable expert by Siyihan's side. His methods were ruthless. Many deplorable incidents were settled by him. Just like before, Luing hated this pest by Siyihan's side to the point where he didn't hesitate to offer to kill her before. Yuanwan's relationship with him was as incompatible as fire with water. Siyihan looked at the girl who had her arms and legs wrapped around him. His gaze paused for a moment and then, he stretched his broad palms out and patted her head. He then narrowed his eyes and looked at the white tiger, Si Lu Te. The white tiger heard the master's warning. The eyes of the feral beast were filled with a sinister scarlet glint, and it roared softly. The way it looked at Yuanwan was as if he was ready to tear her apart the next second. Both man and tiger confronted each other like that for quite a long time. After many minutes had passed, the white tiger finally left grudgingly under the master's stare. Even this white tiger was unable to dominate Siyihan, so it was hard to blame Yuanwan for being so fearful of him in her previous life. But she only found out a long while later that sometimes a person's heart was much scarier than a beast's. After the white tiger left, Siyihan looked at Su-yi. Go receive your own punishment. Su-yi, who was in a daze, immediately replied, yes. He already knew that this was the best outcome. Yuanwan had saved everyone with her "Are you hungry?" question and also saved herself in the process. This was probably just her abnormal reaction after getting such a huge scare. Otherwise, how could a person have such a drastic change in nature? Chapter 143. A late-night call at an exquisite club in Imperial City, late at night. A slightly plump middle-aged man's expression changed after he picked up a call. He dashed out in a hurry. The man's hands trembled as he made a call. Xia, we're in trouble. A lazy teenager's voice came through the receiver. What is it? I've just heard that your fifth uncle landed in Siyihan's hands. The teenager sighed. Tisk, useless. The middle-aged man wiped his sweat while speaking nervously. Xia, you have to quickly think of a way to get him out. The teenager sounded annoyed. I don't want to waste my time on a useless bum. Anyway, you think we can help by going over now? We won't even be able to find a single bone. much less his corpse. Then what should we do now? Are we going to just leave him to die? Obviously, we can't let him off so easily. At Jane Garden, after Sui received his orders and was about to clean up the scene with Lu Ying, a phone started ringing suddenly. Sui looked at the caller ID and panicked suddenly. Master, old madam's calling. Si Han's gaze darkened. Answer it. Sui nodded and then turned on the loudspeaker. Hello, old madam. It's so late. Is everything all right? The displeased voice of the old madam came through the receiver. Sui, get little Ninth to the phone. Now. Sui turned to Si Han nervously. Si Han raised his outstretched hand. Sui went over swiftly, passed the phone over to Si Han, and made eye contact with Lu Ying. Both of them looked uneasy. Grandma. Little Ninth, why haven't you been picking up? Tell me honestly, where are you and what are you doing right now? The old lady questioned him. Obviously, she'd received some news. Sui and Lu Ying broke out in cold sweats when they heard the old madam's questions. The old madam was against the brothers fighting with one another. If she found out what happened tonight, the consequences would be dire. Jane Garden, Si Han answered. Let me ask you, did your fifth brother? The old lady hasn't finished speaking when Yu Wanwan leaned her head over impatiently and asked Si Han, is that Grandma on the phone? When the raging old madam heard Yu Wanwan's voice, she was stunned. A brief moment later, she asked in a surprised tone, Wanwan? Grandma, it's me. Yu Wanwan heard Grandma calling her name and out of respect, she rushed over to the phone to greet her. She mouthed to Si Han, hurry, let me speak to Grandma. Si Han looked at her, deep in thought, then passed the phone to her. Lu Ying's face changed when he saw that Si Han had simply passed such an important call over to Yu Wanwan, but it was too late for him to stop Si Han. What if this woman says something wrong? I can't imagine the consequences. Grandma, it's me, it's Wanwan. Yu Wanwan immediately said it in the sweetest voice, after she got the phone. Hearing Yu Wanwan's voice, the old madam's tone became much warmer, but there was still a hint of suspicion. Wanwan, you're at Little Nine Tia's? Don't you live on campus? Yu Wanwan replied, slightly embarrassed. I missed him a bit, so I came back. The old madam sounded pleased and asked, what were you and Little Ninth doing? Each time the old madam asked a question, Sui and Lu Ying's heart rates rose by a fraction, afraid that Yu Wanwan would say something wrong. There were murderous intentions brewing in Lu Ying's eyes, and he was ready to kill this woman if she dared to say anything wrong. Sui wasn't feeling much better either. Without exaggeration, all of their lives were in the hands of Yu Wanwan. Yu Wanwan wasn't the master after all. She didn't have that kind of quality. Even if she didn't mention the scene in front of them, the old madam with her sharpness would surely find out what happened if she picked up even a slight difference in Wanwan's voice. Chapter 144. So stupid. Is she retarded? Sui was worried and took a glimpse at Si Han. In the end, he saw that his master looked nonchalant, as if this was just an ordinary call from his family. As the saying goes, the emperor's calm while the eunuch's completely anxious. Under the watchful gaze of Sui and Lu Ying, Yu Wanwan replied, eating buns. I brought back some buns from the store selling really good ones near my school entrance. They're really delicious. The old madam over the phone was silent for a while, like she was assessing her response. After a brief moment, she finally heaved a sigh of relief and said lovingly, Wanwan, you like eating buns? Come over to Grandma's place next time, and I'll make them for you. I guarantee that they're tastier than the ones you bought. Yu Wanwan said eagerly, thanks, Grandma. Then can I come over next week? The old madam was very glad. Sure. Of course you can. You can come over anytime. Grandma can't wait for you to come over. When the old lady finished speaking, she called out through the phone, Little Ninth. Yu Wanwan quickly returned the phone to Si Han. But Si Han didn't hold the phone and simply moved closer to the receiver. I'm here. Little Ninth, you must be nice to Wanwan. Don't be mean to someone else's daughter. You can show a black face to other people every day, but you can't be like that to your girlfriend. Also, Wanwan's still young and growing in senior years very taxing. You have to help replenish her nutrition. I know. Don't just tell me you know. You have to change all your bad habits and bad temper too. Yu Wanwan nodded repeatedly as she listened. Grandma, you're truly like my real grandmother. The old lady nagged at Si Han for a long time before hanging up finally. When the living room had regained its silence, Su Yi and Lu Ying both heaved a sigh of relief. A crisis was averted simply by Yu Wanwan's trial and error. If it wasn't for Yu Wanwan, even if the master had denied what had happened, the old lady would still be suspicious. There wasn't the slightest difference in Yu Wanwan's tone from beginning to end, even under pressure from this kind of situation. She must either have incredible abilities, or she's stupid. So stupid that she might truly be retarded. No need to guess, it must be the latter. After that, Lu Ying and Sui cleaned up the bloody scene swiftly. Very soon, everything returned to normal, as if the bloody scene was just an illusion. Actually, Yu Wanwan felt relieved as well. I passed the test tonight, right? I even covered for Si Han and got credit for it. After Sui and Lu Ying left, there was only Yu Wanwan and Si Han left in the room. Why'd you come? Si Han looked at her and asked. Yu Wanwan replied, my roommate went on a date and made me want to see you. Oh right, I have a new roommate now. Her name is Jiang Yanran. Yu Wanwan took the opportunity to tell Si Han that she was no longer living alone. Jiang Yanran and I used to share a dorm room together, but we couldn't get along, so our relationship wasn't too good. Some things happened in these few days, and we've patched things up. Si Han probably didn't care whether these little girls were on good or bad terms and didn't respond. Thus, Yu Wanwan took the chance to talk about the cruel things that Shen Mingqi did. Although Mingqi's my best friend, I think she went overboard this time. How could she snatch the guy that her good friend likes? You better not be seduced by her. Chapter 145. Isn't that for me? Si Han looked at her intensely, like he was surprised that she was able to detect this kind of situation with her level of intelligence. Yu Wanwan was so nervous that she kept yakking on and finally changed the subject. Si Han never brought up what had just happened and didn't seem suspicious of her unusual attitude. I don't want to know anything about what just happened. The more I know, the more danger I'll be in. Yu Wanwan spoke till her mouth was dry, and only then did she stop. How is it so late already? I'm heading back to my room to go to bed. Gotta be up early tomorrow for school. He fixed his gaze on her in silence for a few seconds. After some time, he finally said, go on. After she got his approval, it was as if she'd received amnesty. Yu Wanwan leaned over to kiss him and said goodnight before heading up. Alas, she had taken only a few steps before she heard his deep voice behind her. Wait. Yu Wanwan's back suddenly stiffened, and she clenched her fist subconsciously as she turned around slowly. What? What is it? Si Han didn't speak and reached his hand out to her. Yu Wanwan stared at his bony hand, unsure what he meant. What? Isn't that for me? His gaze paused for a second at her hand. Yu Wanwan followed his line of sight and looked down. Then, she saw the bun inside the plastic bag and was stunned for a while before regaining her senses and quickly replied, oh, yes, it's for you. It's for you. She immediately hopped over and gave him the bun. Then, she stared at it as she swallowed her saliva. I thought that he'd forgotten about it, and I could have it all to myself. Although these buns were for Si Han, she developed feelings for it after traveling with it for such a long time. She remembered that during puberty, her appetite became bigger and bigger, and she became extremely protective of her food. Once, her brother ate her bag of chips by accident, and she chased him down and beat him up. Si Han looked up at her unwilling face. What's wrong? Yu Wanwan stared at the bun. It's a little cold. Do heat it up before eating it. Seeing that she hadn't left, he asked, is there anything else? No. No. I'm leaving. Yu Wanwan quickly rushed upstairs like she was afraid that she'd go back on her words. Cry goodbye, my bun. My love. Si Han watched as she wiggled into her room. His gaze then landed on the bun in his hands and kept his gaze there for a long time. After she returned to her bedroom, Yu Wanwan sent a text to Jiang Yanran informing her that she wouldn't be returning to the dorm that night, so she didn't have to worry about disturbing her if she came back late. I really can't imagine what the first date would be like for these two innocently in love children. After she sent the text, Yu Wanwan showered again and scrubbed the stench of blood away. In the silence of the night, Yi Wanwan laid in bed and rolled around for a long time, unable to fall asleep. Eventually, Yi Wanwan got up and took out a bag of beef jerky and dried pork slices from her school bag. Then, she went downstairs quietly. The living room was still. She tiptoed and slowly scanned every corner of the room to look for it. In the end, she couldn't find it at all. Maybe it went back to the forest? Just as Yi Wanwan was prepared to return to her bedroom in disappointment, suddenly, she noticed a ball of something on the white carpet in front of the sofa. It's Si Lute. Damn, this guy. He could have laid anywhere but chose to lie on the white carpet. His snow-white fur completely blends in. No wonder I had such trouble looking for him. Chapter 146. Great White is so cute after she found her target. Yi Wanwan's eyes lit up and immediately ran over with the dried meat. The moment she strode down the stairs, the white tiger, which was initially laying on the carpet, twitched its ears instantly and opened its eyes, an aura of death emanating from its blue pupils. Being stared at with a pair of eyes like this was disturbing. Thankfully, she'd already experienced this in her previous life. She understood this white tiger very well and knew that although it was extremely ferocious by nature, it acted like a human in some ways. Si Han had interacted with her that evening, which implied that she was one of their own people, so no matter how fierce it would never harm her. Under the fearsome gaze of the tiger, Yi Wanwan shuffled towards it. She could feel the aggression and caution in the beast's eyes increasing as she moved closer. Yi Wanwan didn't get too close. She stopped when she was about 4 to 5 steps away. She opened the bag of dried pork slices and waved them around. Si Lute, do you want them? They're really, really, really delicious dried pork slices. When she waved her hand, the white tiger immediately bared its teeth and roared in danger. You don't like them? Yi Wanwan then reluctantly opened the only bag of beef jerky she had. What about beef jerky? This is really good. Roar, the white tiger, which was on its fours, suddenly stood up, leaned its body forward, and let out a fierce roar at her. Even though she was sure it wouldn't harm her, it was inevitable that her human instincts would still lead her to be scared while facing such a huge beast. Yi Wanwan was so frightened that her heart stopped pumping. But she really didn't want to give up. Thus, she plucked up her courage and continued moving forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. When she was only a step away from the white tiger, an earth-shaking roar from the huge tiger resounded through the skies of Jean Garden. Yi Wanwan's ears started ringing as she fell to the ground. She finally experienced what it was like when the earth trembles and mountains sway. Very quickly, the big door was slammed open and Sui rushed in. What happened? There were footsteps from above as well. Si Han looked towards the living room with furrowed brows. All he saw was Yi Wanwan sitting in front of the white tiger with all sorts of colorful bags scattered on the floor. Also, the white tiger seemed to be agitated and looked like it was about to go berserk. Ms. Yi, what's going on here? Sui looked at this scene and was completely stupefied. Why did Yi Wanwan provoke Si Lute in the middle of the night? Is she courting death? Si Han turned to look at Yi Wanwan as well. Yi Wanwan went over to Si Han with an aggrieved expression and complained, Great White snapped at me. Sob 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 Sui. Who the hell is Great White? Si Han was silent for a few seconds. What were you doing? I just wanted to give my snacks to Great White. Great White's so cute, I wanted to play with it. Yi Wanwan looked at the huge white tiger which was still roaring fiercely at her and suddenly felt even more upset. Sui was about to break down. What the hell does she mean by cute? Si Han wrinkled his brows. Stay far away from it. Yi Wanwan glanced at the huge white tiger's furry head, then looked at its furry and meaty body and simply couldn't resist. Can't I play with it? I'll just stroke its head. Or its claws, can I? Sui, you actually want to touch it? Touch its head and claws? He was completely speechless with the woman before him. It's true that a certain courage comes with ignorance. Chapter 147. Speechless? No, there was no room for negotiation with the way Si Han responded. Yi Wanwan was unconvinced. Why not? Si Han looked at her indifferently and replied, Forced love doesn't last. Yi Wanwan was speechless. She simply couldn't refute that. She never expected that one day she'd be slapped in the face by something she said herself. Fine. Yuanwan glared at Si Han like he was a bad person and then ran away in a huff. One day, she turned Great White into a sweet melon. She believed she could do it. After Yuanwan left, Sui sighed worriedly, Ninth Master, should we ban Si Lu Te from Jing Garden? What if it harms Ms. Yi? Si Han thought about it and looked in the direction of her retreating figure. No need. At the barbecue stall outside the entrance of Qinghe, it was already late at night, but the stall was still buzzing with people. A group of big burly boys sat around a big table and were drinking and chatting. Big boss, don't be angry. That gigolo isn't worth it. His family is only powerful now. Lately, the real estate business hasn't been doing so well, so they might go bust someday. Unlike your family, big boss, they don't have a big project with the government. That's billions in profit. That's right, that's right. That Zhang Yin rants a bimbo, leaving such an outstanding guy like Big Boss for a gigolo. I think Zhang Yin rants just using that gigolo to provoke you. Yes, that must be it. Song Zihang had been filled with anger all the way from the basketball court to the stall, but after he heard all this, he was slightly appeased. Just as he was about to speak, his phone rang. My dad's calling. I'm going to answer it. You guys go ahead and drink first. A call from Director Song. You better get it. Hurry and go, Big Boss. Song Zihang took his phone to a quiet spot. His tone somewhat excited. Hello, Dad? Is everything settled? Daddy Song sounded a little unhappy. Not yet. The 100 million from the Jiang family hasn't come through. What? Hasn't come through? I thought they said that they'd transfer it in the morning? Song Zihang's face changed. The Jiang family said there were some problems with their finances all of a sudden and couldn't transfer the money over. They'll need a few more days? The Jiangs are too unreliable. We discussed this months ago. How can there be a problem now? Do they know how much losses we would take because of their mistake? Song Zihang said, agitated. Mr. Song was obviously unhappy as well as he replied with a heavy sigh. All right, it's not a major problem. We'll get their payment by next week at the latest. Mr. Song paused and then asked, how are things between you and Yin Ran lately? Song Zihang felt slightly guilty and simply gave a shallow reply. How else could it be? Everything's the same. Mr. Song warned him sternly, make her happy in your free time. Buy little gifts for her and shop with her. Don't be so nonchalant. Song Zihang's tone suddenly became a bit annoyed. I'm not the Jiang family's servant. Why should I give in to her? Coax her or eat and play with her? Anyway, Dad, I've already told you that I like someone else. Nonsense. I've told you so many times that now is not the time for you to do what you want. You have to restrain yourself in times like this. Wait till our family becomes more powerful first. Then, wouldn't you be able to have any girl you wanted? If you can't even restrain yourself for such a small matter now, what can you accomplish in the future? You have to make Yin Ran happy, especially now. You hear me? Song Zihang's face darkened. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and replied, got it. I'll make her happy. That's my boy. Chapter 148. There's no such thing as a free lunch the next morning. Before heading to class, Yuanwan stopped by her dorm. Even before she took out her keys, the door was pulled open. Wanwan, you're back. Zhang Yin Ran stood by the door cheerfully. She probably heard Yuanwan's footsteps. Yuanwan was used to living alone, so having the door opened for her all of a sudden gave her a shock. Yeah. Come on, tell me, how was the date last night? Yuanwan couldn't wait to find out. Zhang Yin Ran hesitated before replying. I told Chu Feng the truth already. Yuanwan was taken aback. Huh? What did you tell him? I told him that it was your idea to ask him out, and initially, I more or less wanted to use him to provoke Song Zihang, but in the end, I couldn't go through with it, so I told him everything. With my current condition, I really can't dive into another relationship so fast, and this wasn't fair to him. Zhang Yin Ran answered. All right. Yuanwan sighed. With Zhang Yin Ran's character, she roughly guessed that this would happen. She didn't have high hopes that they'd get together so quickly anyway. That's okay. The two of you can still be friends. Chu Feng's a nice guy. You don't have to worry. Yuanwan consoled her. Yeah, Zhang Yinran nodded and said, oh, right. My dad called me last night and said that they gave the excuse that their finances had some issues, so they weren't able to transfer money over to the songs. At the same time, they already secretly withdrew the funds from their collaborative projects. The songs weren't suspicious at all. Yuanwan laughed. There's no problem if Uncle Zhang handles things. You can stop worrying. Come on, let's go eat. The two of them spoke while packing their books and went downstairs. Just as they were about to enter the canteen to eat, they bumped into someone who made their stomachs turn. Song Zihang held soy milk and steamed dumplings in his hands as he blocked the path of the two of them suddenly. The unrelenting smile on his handsome face was very clear. He looked at Zhang Yinran and said, Yinran, you haven't had your breakfast, right? I bought it for you. You love the soy milk and steamed dumplings from Xiangman restaurant, don't you? Yuanwan raised her brows when she saw this. TSK, there's no such thing as a free lunch. He's probably doing this because the Song family felt uneasy, so they gave him a warning. Don't they know it's too late now? Upon seeing Song Zihang's surprisingly gentle expression, Zhang Yinran was put into a trance, but very quickly. She turned cold. No, I don't. Their soy milk has a fishy smell, and their steamed dumplings aren't good. Shinmeng Chi's the one who likes them. Song Zihang froze. Oh, cough. Is it now? I bought them for you once, and I remember clearly that you said you like them. Zhang Yinran sneered in her heart. That was only because you bought breakfast for me on that rare occasion. How could I say that I didn't like it? Thinking back, he bought a lot of food that time, and even asked her to share with the people in her dorm. It was obvious that he bought them specifically for Shenming Chi. These two hooked up much earlier than I thought, and even did it right in front of me. But I've already bought them. It's such a waste if you don't eat them. Just take them. Song Zihang then shoved the breakfast into her hands. Yuanwan was speechless as she watched from the side. This is so insincere. Is he really trying to make things up to her? Does he think she's a garbage can? Or does he think that everybody's as stupid as he is? Chapter 149. Wooing Girls. Yuanwan had texted Chu Feng when she saw Song Zihang coming from afar. As to whether or not he used this opportunity depended on his wits. Yuanwan looked up from her phone, glanced suspiciously at Song Zihang and mumbled, Captain Song. Yin Ran already said she doesn't like it. Why are you still forcing her to eat it? She's not a garbage can. When he heard that, he glared at Yuanwan with a darkened face. What garbage can? Ugly freak, don't come between us. I just don't want to waste the food. Song Zihang didn't bother any further with Yuanwan and continued with his sweet talk while suppressing his anger. Yin Ran, I know I went overboard with what happened before, but if you hadn't hurt Ming Chi in the first place, I wouldn't have acted out. If I didn't speak up for Ming Chi then, she would have been misunderstood and attacked by so many people. You and Ming Chi are so close. Could you let that happen? Zhang Yinran thought that she'd be heartbroken, but after hearing what he said, she became numb. She smiled slightly and replied, So you're fine with me being misunderstood and attacked? Song Zihang had never cared about Zhang Yinran. He thought that by being slightly nicer to her and appearing weaker, she'd definitely run back to him with tears of gratitude. Who knew that Zhang Yinran wouldn't give him the time of day at all? Thus, Song Zihang started to lose his patience. His expression was cold as he held the plastic bag in his hands, his tone somewhat condescending and annoyed. Yinran, I didn't expect all those replies. Anyway, they merely said some bad things about you but didn't cause much harm. Do you want to cut ties with me over such a small matter? Even though I forgot what you liked, I did give you a sincere apology. He said he was sincere, but his tone didn't have a trace of sincerity at all. While Song Zihang was busy giving his speech, suddenly, a figure rushed to them like the wind. All they saw was a tall and handsome boy with his forehead soaked with sweat before them. He bent down panting. Yin Ran. Chu Feng. Zhang Yinran was shocked to see Chu Feng with his shirt drenched in sweat. What's going on? I'm fine. I bought breakfast for you, but I wasn't sure what you like to eat, so I got a little of everything. Chu Feng didn't even have a hand to wipe his sweat. Both his arms were full of different-sized bags, up to his elbows. He went completely over the top. You'd think he was a food delivery boy. Judging by the packaging, Chu Feng also bought breakfast from Xiangman restaurant, but he got almost everything on their menu. Compared to Chu Feng's tactics of wooing girls and sincerity, Song Zihang's cup of soy milk and box of steamed dumplings looked way too shabby. Sure enough, when Song Zihang saw Chu Feng, his face changed. And when he saw what he held in his hands, his face became as black as the underside of a pot. Zhang Yin was stunned. But this is too much. How could I possibly finish so much? Chu Feng immediately replied, just pick what you like and take it. Wouldn't that be very wasteful? No, I'll give the rest to the brats in class. It's their lucky day. Hurry, take your pick. Seeing the sweat on his face and nervousness in his eyes, Zhang Yin couldn't bring herself to reject him. All right then, thank you. Chapter 150. The hideous face behind the mask. Don't mention it. Actually, I was just bored, so I went out to grab this stuff. Chu Feng then quickly turned to Yuanwan. Wanwanja, you pick some too. He's actually quite sweet when he calls me Jia. The corners of Yuanwan's lips curled up. I won't hold back then. The three of them happily split their breakfast and completely ignored Song Zihang. Song Zihang gripped the plastic bag in his hands tightly. He'd never felt so embarrassed in his life. With his face darkened and filled with fury, Zhang Yin ran. I was wrong and couldn't tell that you're this sort of a person. So devoted and in love to my face, but flirting behind my back. I heard Meng Qi say that after you moved in with this ugly freak, you were influenced by her. As the saying goes, he who lies down with dogs will rise with fleas. You ditched an amazing and kind roommate like Meng Qi to hang around this monster. No wonder you've become so shameless. Upon hearing what he said, Yuanwan raised her brows. He actually said Yin was flirting around? He'll find out very soon what flirting around really means. Zhang Yin turned pale instantly. She never imagined that the guy she liked for so many years would be this evil after his mask had been removed. What she couldn't tolerate the most was that he not only insulted her but Wanwan as well. Zhang Yin was so angry that she started shaking. The boy next to her suddenly stepped forward and moved in front of her. He stared coldly at Song Zihang and said, an ungrateful brat like you has the right to criticize other people? Wanwanjia's grades topped the class. Her position is much further ahead of the White Lotus you've claimed. With Shun Mengqi's behavior, she still dares to insult other people? Who gave her that confidence? You didn't cherish the times Yin was nice to you, and you took her for granted. You took her sincerity and trampled on it, and even hooked up with her friend, denying the engagement with her in front of the entire school, and now, you're blaming her for not allowing you to continue bullying and stepping over her. Who exactly gave you this hideous face? Upon hearing what Chu Feng said, Yuanwan was a little surprised. I couldn't tell that this guy, who stutters when he's talking to Yin, has such a sharp tongue. Song Zihang's face contorted in anger. You. What about me? Just because you're blind doesn't mean that others are blind too. You're not even fit to carry Yin shoes. What kind of a man are you? You're not fit to be a human. A useless scumbag. PFFF. Yuanwan was on the verge of giving him a round of applause. Chu Feng, you're dead meat. Song Zihang finally flew into a rage. He tossed the food in his hands aside and charged at him. Chu Feng quickly put his bags down and met him head-on, but since he was a little late, he was punched in the eye by Song Zihang and tottered backwards. Zhang Yin screamed out, Chu Feng. On the other hand, Yuanwan was quite calm. This fight was bound to happen. No matter the outcome, Chu Feng had already won. Because the person Zhang Yin was worried about was Chu Feng, not Song Zihang. Wanwan, what should we do? Song Zihang has been trained from a young age. Chu Feng's definitely at a loss here. Zhang Yin exclaimed anxiously. Song Zihang's moves were ruthless, vicious, and fast. Judging by his stance, he must have had some professional training. While they were speaking, Chu Feng was beaten many times. Yuanwan frowned. Although it was good to let Yin's heart ache slightly, being beaten up by Song Zihang was really a bit too depressing. But two girls couldn't help in this situation either, right? Yuanwan focused all her attention and looked closely. She found out where Song Zihang might be attacking next with his swift and ruthless moves, and also his weak points. which weren't hard to guess. Chapter 151. You're too weak, Yi Wanwan blurted out without thinking. Chu Feng, dodge. To your right. Chu Feng was stunned, but fortunately, he reacted quickly and immediately leaned to his right. Sure enough, he managed to dodge a punch from Song Zihang. Attack his left rib. Yi Wanwan continued. Song Zihang didn't block in time, and his left rib was left wide open. He crouched down in pain after suffering a sudden blow from Chu Feng. Just as Song Zihang got back up, ready to attack Chu Feng's stomach, Yi Wanwan shouted again, "Your stomach?" After a few minutes, Chu Feng, who was initially receiving all the punches, got the upper hand. No matter what moves Song Zihang made, he was able to dodge and return a punch. Song Zihang was filled with exasperation, and he glared at Yi Wanwan as if he wanted to eat her up. Chu Feng, who's the one that's not worthy to be a man? A big guy like you has to rely on a woman to fight. Yi Wanwan put on an innocent face and muttered, "Oh, I'm just a girl spewing nonsense, yet was able to get you beaten up like a pig. Captain Song, aren't you a little too weak?" You. Song Zihang was fuming mad. It was unbelievable. Yi Wanwan was simply too strange. She was able to predict his next moves not once or twice, but every single time. Could it be that Yi Wanwan's also trained? She's a girl. How could that be? His father had spent a large sum of money to get him lessons with an internationally renowned master. Even if he learned only a bit, it was enough. How could Yi Wanwan possibly see through all his moves? At this moment, students started to gradually crowd around. Song Zihang was worried that if they continued, he would lose face in front of everyone. In the end, he could only stare bitterly at the three of them and walk away. Jiang Yin ran. "You'll regret this." After Song Zihang left in anger, Chu Feng wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth and walked over to Yi Wanwan excitedly. "Wanwan, yeah, you're amazing. How could you predict his next moves like a mind reader?" Jiang Yin ran also looked at Yi Wanwan in amazement. Yi Wanwan coughed lightly. It's clearer from an onlooker's point of view. Song Zihang's skills are garbage. You guys would be able to tell too if you looked closely. Oh, the two of them didn't suspect a thing. "You're bleeding." Jiang Yin ran looked at the boy who had injuries on his mouth and eyes. "Feeling guilty," she said. "Sorry for dragging you into this." Chu Feng scratched his head. His ears turned red and he returned to his usual silly self. "Nah, I was useless and didn't protect you well. From today onwards, I'll train hard." Jiang Yin ran didn't know what to say, so she said, "I'll go with you to the school nurse." Chu Feng wanted to tell her not to trouble herself, but Yi Wanwan hinted at him with her eyes, so he swallowed his words and said, "I'll have to trouble you then." Jiang Yin ran turned to Yi Wanwan. "Wanwan, go eat your breakfast first. I'll go with Chu Feng to the nurse." Yi Wanwan waved. "Go on, go on." After Jiang Yin ran and Chu Feng left, Yi Wanwan stood there looking slightly dazed and thought deeply. Actually, to those skilled and experienced fighters, it's easy to see through their opponent's tactics and moves. To people like this was as easy as 1 + 1 = 2. A natural instinct. Chapter 152. Of course I'll forgive her. In fact, she shouldn't have this ability. During her previous life, although her father hired a professional to train her so that she could learn some self-defense, she only kept at it for a month. However, she realized that when it came to combat skills or any other skills that normal people found uncommon, she was able to pick them up very quickly with her strong perceptive skills. It was like those skills were ingrained in her brain. She wasn't learning, but instead, she was merely recalling them. Previously, in order to hide from Si Han, she not only hid her looks but all the abilities she had, anything that might expose her sharpness. But in this life, she wouldn't be so silly. There was a metaphorical knife in her hand, and yet, she had allowed herself and the people around her to end up in tragedies. After school, the moment Yi Wanwan left the classroom, she saw Shan Mengqi waiting eagerly for her by the door. It seemed like she noticed that she was getting closer to Jiang Yin Ran and had started to panic. "Wanwan." The second Shan Mengqi saw Yi Wanwan, she immediately walked over enthusiastically and hooked onto her elbow. "Shall we all have a barbecue dinner tonight?" Yi Wanwan replied in her usual tone, "Sure." While walking, Shinmengqi probed, Wanwan, I heard you're living with Yinran now. It must be hard to live with someone with her character, right? Why don't you move over to my place? It's fine. I'm too lazy to move all over the place, Yuanwan replied nonchalantly. Shinmengqi was still worried. Did Yinran tell you anything about me? Wanwan, you know me best. With Yinran's incident, I didn't do it on purpose. I had no choice when Song Ziheng kept pestering me. In order to not upset her, I tried my best to hide it, but who knew it would still make her upset in the end and misunderstand me? Wanwan, you can understand how I feel, right? If it was the old Yuanwan, she'd definitely understand. Even if there was evidence right in front of her eyes stating otherwise, she'd still choose to believe Shinmengqi. Yuanwan wrinkled her brows like she was hesitating, but in the end, she nodded. She spoke like she'd just been brainwashed. Mengqi, of course I understand. You're so pretty, kind, and amazing. It's inevitable that so many people are in love with you. How could we blame you? After hearing that, Shinmengqi was delighted. A trace of mockery appeared beneath her eyes. I was nervous for nothing. Yi Wanwan's so dumb. She's still as gullible as before. While the two of them chatted, Shinmengqi's phone suddenly rang. Yi Wanwan took a peek and saw it was the name of one of the junior boys in second year, one of the fanatical suitors of Shinmengqi. His family was also well off, but of course, was incomparable to Song Ziheng. There were quite a few others that she knew of who were kept hanging like spare tires by Shinmengqi. Yi Wanwan rubbed her chin, and a glow of understanding flashed across her eyes. Hello? Shinmengqi didn't move away from Yi Wanwan and picked up the call. Saturday? I'm afraid I can't make it. I have makeup classes. I can't make it on Sunday too. I'm really sorry. Next time, all right? Shinmengqi used the sweetest voice to reject whoever was on the phone. Her main focus was on Song Ziheng now. All the spare tires 1, 2, and 3 had to be on standby for now. Shinmengqi hung up, looked at Yi Wanwan, and continued. Yinran seemed to be so in love with Song Ziheng. I really didn't expect that she'd get together with Chu Feng so quickly. Probably because Chu Feng comes from a wealthy family. With the way things were going, not only was she trying to brainwash her, she was also prepared to smear Jiang Yinran and hint that Jiang Yinran was flirtatious and greedy. But actually, with Shinmengqi's intelligence, she knew just as well as everybody else that Chu Feng's family's glory was only temporary, as the industry wasn't doing well and plummeting. They'd be bankrupt very soon. She obviously wouldn't fall for this kind of person. The two of them chatted away while walking towards the dorms to put their books down. The moment they reached the entrance to the girls' dormitory, they suddenly noticed a large crowd around the entrance. Chapter 153. Seeking death. After the people saw Shinmengqi, their eyes lit up and they rushed towards her with eyes of envy. They announced her arrival aloud teasingly. She's here. She's here. Shinmengqi's here. As they moved closer, Yuanwan saw a big heart shape on the ground floor of the girls' dorm made of candles. In the middle was Shinmengqi's name, and surrounding it was a sea of roses. Song Ziheng's tall and handsome figure stood there. In his arms was a giant bouquet of roses, almost half as tall as a person, and his gaze was fixated on Shinmengqi. Shinmengqi played along and gave a shocked expression. Her helpless and shy appearance, like a little white bunny, was enough to tug at the heartstrings of any guy. Under the gaze of all the onlookers, Song Ziheng carried the flowers and walked towards Shinmengqi with vigorous strides. Mengqi, forgive me for being presumptuous, but there are some things, some feelings that I can't hold back any longer. I like you. From the first time I met you, I felt deeply for you. I like your simplicity, your kindness, your innocence, your everything. I know you're the one I want, the one I'm destined to be with, the one I want to protect my entire life. Song Ziheng's confession caused the crowd to scream in excitement and envy. That's so romantic and lovely. Captain Song, you're amazing. If someone courted me like that, my life would be complete. Say yes. Say yes. Yi Wanwan rolled her eyes and was speechless when she saw all those candles and roses. This method of confession was so outdated, but was probably quite novel for this period in time. TSK, this Song Ziheng doesn't let me down. He's still dashing ahead on the road to death. The Song family gave him a call deliberately to get him to pacify Jiang Yinran. Instead, he did the exact opposite. Since he was thoroughly embarrassed by Jiang Yinran that morning and lost his dignity, he made a grand confession to Shen Mingqi for revenge. At this moment, Yuanwan saw from afar that Jiang Yinran was also in the crowd. The people around her were gesticulating. Most of them were either gloating or sympathizing with her. Jiang Yinran's so unlucky. After all, she was the one who liked Song Ziheng first. That's right, although Chu Feng's not that bad. The Chu family has a mess to deal with, and they probably reached their end already. Unlike the Song family, their news is everywhere on the economics cover page. But you can't blame Song Ziheng for choosing Shen Mingqi. There aren't many girls who are as simple and kind as Shen Mingqi these days. Initially, Yuanwan was worried about Jiang Yinran, but thankfully, her reaction was better than expected. She only glanced at all of this coldly and was disinterested in Song Ziheng's performance as she carried her books back into the dormitory nonchalantly, while Shen Mingqi next to her was blushing under the envious eyes of everyone and basking in Song Ziheng's affectionate confession. She appeared to be very shy, inciting an urge to embrace and love her. Seeing Shen Mingqi's abashed little face, the agitation that Song Ziheng felt that morning by Jiang Yinran instantly disappeared. When he saw the retreating figure of Jiang Yinran from the corner of his eye, he even thought that she left heartbroken. Song Ziheng looked at Shen Mingqi once again and continued his confession with deep emotions. Mingqi, be with me. Give me the chance to take care of you, protect you, and give you happiness. Shen Mingqi obviously didn't let such a good opportunity to clutch onto Song Ziheng pass. However, with her shrewdness, she wouldn't accept him directly in front of everyone. She put on a shy face the whole way and accepted the flowers from Song Ziheng after making a polite show of declining. She still didn't say a word and hurried back into the dormitory, blushing. With this kind of reaction, it could be thought that she had accepted him in the eyes of Song Ziheng and the crowd. However, if she wanted to deny what happened or pacify her spare tires, she'd be able to. Yuanwan watched delightfully as Song Ziheng sought death. She calculated the time in her heart. Uncle Jiang should be ready soon, and it was also time for her to prepare. Chapter 154. Recovered losses in the following week. Song Ziheng let himself loose and got very intimate with Shen Mingqi. Yuanwan observed the situation with the Jiang family calmly while gathering information secretly and waited for an opportunity. Her big move on Xixia had worked for quite some time. The boy was very well behaved for an entire week and didn't dare to provoke her, and he was also very obedient during rehearsals. After waiting in silence for several days, the news that Yuanwan was waiting for finally arrived. Today was the day of the government open bid. Mr. Jiang called just as she arrived back at the dormitory that night. Yuanwan prompted Jiang Yinran anxiously with her eyes glistening. Quick, answer it. Jiang Yinran nodded and turned on the loudspeaker. Hello, Daddy? Mr. Jiang's loving voice came through the receiver. Hello, Yinran. Daddy called to tell you some good news. Today's bid was very successful. We got the project. Although it was expected, Yuanwan was still quite emotional. While she was still basking in happiness, Mr. Jiang went on, Also, we've publicly announced the cancellation of your engagement with the Songs. Thanks to your friend's warning, we were able to act in time before they were alerted. I've withdrawn all the funds from the other projects and canceled numerous collaborations and dealings. I've also managed to recover all our losses. Most importantly, that big project was in the Jiang's hands. So anyhow, they made some gains from it. Oh right, is your friend there? She's here. Jiang Yin ran past the phone over to Yi Wanwan. Uncle Jiang, I'm here. Wanwan, come over for dinner when you're free. Uncle owes you a big one. Let me know if you need help in future. Thank you, Uncle. Uncle should be the one thanking you. At the same time, in the school canteen, Song Ziheng didn't have a clue about what was going on and was still enjoying a sweet dinner with Shen Mingqi. These days, the two of them were always together like a little couple deeply in love. They were still displaying their affection publicly as usual today. Ziheng, today's the day your family takes part in the bid with the government, right? I wonder what the result will be, Shen Mingqi asked in a caring manner, filled with curiosity. Once she mentioned that, Song Zihang was immediately filled with satisfaction and said confidently, I spoke to my dad last night. Everything's in place. The funds will definitely reach us soon. There's absolutely no problem. Shinmeng Chi sighed in relief and said, That's good. At first, I was worried that I would cause trouble for you. What if Yen Ran said some things to her parents? Song Zihang replied fearlessly, How could that be, Meng Chi? You're too simple-minded. Both our families have worked together for so many years and are inseparable. Our partnership isn't something that can be destroyed by a spoiled princess like Jiang Yen Ran spouting a few words. Look at how impressive the Jiangs are now. It's all because they have our backing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived. Jiang Yen Ran's parents were both in the entertainment industry before and went through a complete career change. What would they know about doing business? That's true. It's truly all thanks to your family. Yen Ran's too ungrateful and even pulled that trick with Chu Feng. Isn't she trying to make you look bad on purpose? Shin Mingqi said defensively and looked at him in admiration. Chapter 155. Fiery Rage Song Zihang thoroughly enjoyed being looked at this way and continued pouring lavish praises on Shun Mingqi. Don't talk about that woman. How could she compare to you? Mingqi, I'm my father's only son and will definitely inherit the wealth of the family. By then, I'll definitely give you the best of everything. Zihang. Shin Mingqi appeared to be moved. I don't care about any of that. As long as I can be with you, that's all I need. While the two of them were being lovey-dovey, Song Zihang's phone rang. Upon seeing the caller ID, Song Zihang's face brightened. My dad's calling. It must be to report the good news. Shin Mingqi was also very excited when she heard that. Hello, Dad. Song Zihang immediately picked up the call. Zihang, get back here right now. Daddy Song's solemn voice came through the receiver. Song Zihang was still clouded by the excitement of having the kingdom and this beauty in his hands, and didn't hear the difference in his father's tone. Got it? I'll come back right now. After he hung up, Song Zihang told Shin Mingqi, Mingqi, my dad wants me to go back. It's probably to attend the celebration party. You should get going then. Shin Mingqi revealed a joyful expression, certain that she didn't put her stakes on the wrong horse. Song Zihang held the girl's slender hand. Mingqi, I'll tell my parents about us after I head back. I'll be able to bring you home next time. Song Zihang rushed back home eagerly. Dad, congratulations. Are we having a celebration tonight? Song Zihang pushed the door open and entered the living room in high spirits. But then he was hit on the head by a teacup the moment he stepped in. Bastard! Song Zihang's forehead started hurting as he got his wits smashed out of him. Dad, you're insane. Mrs. Song saw her own son being hit on the head and was heartbroken. She brought a towel over and pressed on the wound. Old Song, can't you talk things out nicely? Do you have to use such a heavy hand? Talk nicely. How do you want me to talk to him nicely? Mr. Song's face turned red with fury. Mom, what exactly happened? Isn't today the day of the bid? Dad, why were you so angry? Hitting me the moment I get back? Am I really your son? Song Zihang said resentfully. Mrs. Song covered her son's mouth like he said something taboo. Don't mention the bid. At first, the Jiangs promised they would transfer the 100 million over before the bid. Who knew that they didn't transfer the money and even entered the bid to compete with us? In the end, the project landed in the Jiang family's hands. Song Zihang's expression changed instantly and he shouted in an uncontrollable rage, Mom, what did you just say? The Jiangs acted in bad faith. How could they do this? That project was rightfully ours. Mrs. Song continued gravely, that isn't the worst part. Our families were relatives by marriage. It's fine if they don't trust our family and took the deal away. We'd be a family sooner or later, and the Jiang family only has one daughter, so everything would belong to you. However, after the bidding ended, that Jiang Haichao actually announced the cancellation of our two families' engagement in front of everyone, and even said that they want to cut all ties. All the collaborations between both our families were severed overnight. Song Zihang was in disbelief. Mom, what did you just say? They called off the engagement? How can they simply call it off whenever they want? Who do they think we are? Throwing us away when our value has depleted? They're going too far. We can't let this go. Chapter 156. Ask your dear son. Mrs. Song sized her son up and hesitated. Ziheng, let me ask you, did you have no idea what was going on at all? Did you do something that you weren't supposed to do? Upon hearing his mother's skeptical tone, Song Ziheng blurted out, Mom, what do you mean by that? How would I know? What could I have possibly done? Also, Dad, I wanted to ask you, didn't you keep saying that there's no problem at all? How did it become like this all of a sudden? Did the deal go bust before? Mr. Song slammed the table and shouted, You don't know? If you didn't know, why would Zhang Haichao tell me to go home and ask my dear son? Whose fault could it be other than yours? Do you know how much manpower, resources, and finances the company has invested into this bid? We even took up a huge loan. All the money has been invested into the equipment for that machine factory. Now that the deal's gone, everything has become a pile of scrap metal. What? Zhang Haichao told Dad to come home and ask me? Song Ziheng's heart thumped hard as cold sweat started trickling down his spine. Ask me. Mrs. Song said anxiously. Yes. Ziheng, quickly, think about what you've done exactly. There might be a way to salvage this. Otherwise, the company's really gone. Our whole family will have to sleep on the streets. Actually, from the time the Zhang family delayed the loan, I sensed something was off. Now that I think back, Zhang Haichao had probably started making plans from that point in time. Otherwise, the projects couldn't have been withdrawn so quickly and the bid wouldn't have gone so smoothly, catching us off guard. Your father and I thought about it for a long time, and we were sure that nothing unusual happened during this period. Zhang Haichao's attitude has always been the same, and both our families didn't have any conflicts, so we really couldn't figure out why he turned against us suddenly. Think about it carefully. What have you done recently? Mr. Song then stared at his son in anger. That day, I specifically called you to tell you to be nicer to Yin Ran. Did you act accordingly? Let me ask you, did you make Yin Ran angry? Song Ziheng's face was ghastly pale at this point in time. Facing his raging father, he swallowed his saliva and forced himself to be calm. Then, he denied it without the slightest hesitation. How could that be? Dad, Mom, you guys still don't know me? Since when have I not waited upon that rich girl, Zhang Yin Ran, like a princess? All I have done is tolerated her temper. How could I make her angry? Don't you guys know what I've been through all these years? I really didn't expect that even after suffering such indignities without complaint, Zhang Haichao was still so petty and unsatisfied with me. It's obvious that the Zhangs are ungrateful and discarded us after our help was expended. Mr. Song stared at his son sternly for a long time. Seeing that he pledged all this in sincerity and was affirmative in his tone, he started to believe him. When Mrs. Song heard what he said, she was completely on her son's side. Old Song. We're witnesses to how Ziheng usually treats Yin Ran. He's pretty much given her a sacrificial offering. How could it be Ziheng's fault? Mr. Song turned livid with rage and completely shifted his fury over to the Zhang family. All right, you Zhang Haichao. So much for treating him like our family. He actually resorted to double-dealing and even hit us back by disparaging my son. Chapter 157. Incredibly shameless. Seeing that his parents were no longer suspicious, Song Ziheng heaved a sigh of relief silently. Thankfully, he had been very nice to Yin Ran in front of the parents of both families. Even Zhang Haichao wouldn't suspect him, much less his parents. Then, how did this happen? How did things end up this way? In the blink of an eye, he lost everything. The project was gone. The collaboration was gone. The production line was useless. The company was knee-deep in debt and was about to go bankrupt. He knew Zhang Yin Ran too well and was confident that he already had that woman hooked. No matter what he did, she'd never object because she was afraid that he'd hate her, so it was impossible that she'd go home to complain. So what if he protected Ming Qi and confessed to her in public? That would only make Yin Ran jealous and become more devoted to him. Now, she dolled up so beautifully and ran to Chu Feng just to provoke him and try to change his mind, right? He never expected that Zhang Haichao would actually call off the engagement between the two families. Damn it. I knew it. It must be because that woman, Zhang Yin Ran, was pushed too far, so she had to use heavy tactics to force me to submit. Song Ziheng tried probing his dad, Dad, what should we do now? A sense of tiredness overwhelmed Mr. Song's face. I can only think of one thing. If the Jiang family is willing to work with us on this government project, that's the only way to salvage things. But if Jiang Haichao really wants to be so brutal, I won't let him have it so easy. I'll fight until both sides perish. I want everyone to know the crafty and treacherous side of the Jiangs. Then we'll see how they can continue to work in this field, how their daughter is going to get married. Song Ziheng's face turned gloomy. Dad, you're right. The Song family is not to be trifled with. Mrs. Song looked at her son. Heartbroken. Ziheng, it's been hard on you all these years. You've been so kind to Yin Ran, yet the Jiangs were so ruthless nonetheless. After Song Ziheng left his house, he rushed back to school with rage burning inside of him. At the same time, Yuanwan and Jiang Yinran had enjoyed a lavish meal at the barbecue stall in celebration and were taking a stroll by the sports grounds to digest their food. Suddenly, Jiang Yinran's phone rang. Jiang Yinran opened the text to take a look. Song Ziheng asked to meet me. Yuanwan lifted her gaze, unbothered by it. Meet him then. After all, it was a good opportunity for Jiang Yinran to see the true colors of this scumbag. Jiang Yinran pinched her fingers and then replied, I'm at the sports grounds. I'll sit over there and wait for you. Yuanwan went and sat down at the stands nearby. Song Ziheng got there very quickly, almost sprinting like the wind to Jiang Yinran. He had just managed to catch his breath before he immediately started scolding her. Jiang Yinran, I really didn't expect that you'd be this kind of person. You tossed me away once you hooked up with that gigolo, Chu Feng. And you actually made your father call off the engagement. You think the engagement can be called off just like that by the Jiang family? What do you think the Song family is? People that re at your beck and call. Jiang Yinran looked at the boy in front of her, expressionless. Are you done? What? Wasn't I right? Are you feeling guilty now? I really didn't expect that you'd be so evil. That project belongs to my family. Who are you to snatch it from us? Upon hearing what Song Ziheng said, even Yi Wanwan was stunned and amazed by how shameless he was. Chapter 158. Who hasn't fallen for a few scumbags before? Jiang Yinran had an indescribable sadness in her heart. Oh, I'm evil for calling off the engagement? Who exactly declared that the engagement didn't exist and said that he wasn't related to me at all? I've only fulfilled your desires. What? Is that wrong? An icy glow flashed beneath Song Ziheng's eyes. Jiang Yinran, don't bring that up and make a thing of it now. I'm warning you. You better go back and get your father to retract what he said about calling off the engagement and work together with the Song family for the project. Of course, it's fine if you insist on calling off the engagement. As compensation, you just have to hand the project over to the Song family. Then, I can act like this incident never happened. Otherwise, don't hope that I can forgive you in this lifetime. Don't test my patience. There has to be a limit to your stubbornness. Song Ziheng's attitude seemed like he was certain that Jiang Yinran's actions aimed to get him to change his mind. He clearly thought that she was still deeply in love with him and that she was still the same girl who'd give in to him whenever he got angry. Watching the guy she used to like for so many years saying all these ridiculous things, finally, the last glimmer of light in Jiang Yinran's eyes went out. Song Ziheng, you disgust me. You. Song Ziheng watched the retreating figure of the girl, his face filled with fury. In the girls' dormitory, after they went back, Yuanwan sensed that Jiang Yinran was a little upset. Are you okay? Jiang Yinran smiled bitterly. I just found it quite scary. What if I hadn't seen his true colors in time? What would have happened to me in the end? Thinking back to what happened to Jiang Yinran in the end, Yuanwan's heart froze as well. Yuanwan understood very well how it felt to have your beliefs vanish into thin air. She sighed and said, cheer up, who hasn't fallen for a few scumbags when they were young? Jiang Yinran was amused and laughed out loud. Speaking of which, we both seem to be in the same boat. Actually, I've always been quite curious. You were so in love with Gu Yuze before. What made you change your mind all of a sudden? Yi Wanwan's eyes turned slightly gloomy and replied, I found out about some truths by accident. In the next few days, as the bidding process was still incomplete and results hadn't been announced publicly, very few people knew about it, and the public wasn't aware of the outcome. As Song Zihang had previously boasted about it nonstop, every student in school assumed that the Song family got it. These people went up to Song Zihang to congratulate him and try to curry favor with him. Shin Mengqi was very sharp and realized that Song Zihang seemed to be distracted these few days. She wasn't sure whether it was because he was affected by Jiang Yin Ran's recent transformation or that he was overjoyed at securing the deal. Anyhow, she couldn't let the prey in her hands escape again. Thus, she was more courteous towards Song Zihang and even took the initiative to ask him out that Saturday. With each passing day that the project remained out of his hands, Song Zihang became uneasy. He still maintained the fantasy that Jiang Yin Ran would compromise eventually. While he was shopping with Shin Mengqi, he received a call from home once again. Song Zihang ducked away from Shin Mengqi and answered the call. "Hello, Mom. How's everything?" His mother's furious voice came through the receiver immediately. "Zihang, the Jiang family is too cruel this time. We can't think of a way out now. He could help us out with just a simple lift of his finger, but he'd rather have the expensive equipment that our company bought rather than work with us. He's obviously pushing us to our death. That old bastard. He's actually treating us like that?" Song Zihang boiled in anger. Chapter 159. Revenge and Desperation. Mrs. Song's tone became somewhat deranged. "I won't let them off. I'll never let them off. TSK, Zhang Haichao. He thinks he'll be fine by hiding from me? He wants his daughter to marry someone better off? There's no way. I'll make that wretch lose her reputation. I'll let everyone know how the Jiangs were so treacherous that they broke the contract. Let's see who'd want the Jiang family's junk then." "Mom, what are you planning to do?" "Don't you worry. Mommy will definitely help you get revenge." "Wait, Mom? Mom." She already hung up. Shin Mengqi walked over to him with a worried look. "Zihang, what happened? Who called?" "Nothing." Song Zihang shook his head and felt uneasy. The Jiang family still hadn't relented yet? Shin Mengqi was too focused on winning him over from Jiang Yanran and didn't think too much of it. "Let's go get our pictures taken then. If we don't go now, there'll be lots of people lining up later." She had already concluded that Song Zihang's unusual behavior these few days was all due to Jiang Yanran. Dressing up to the nines and getting all intimate with Chu Feng. Does Jiang Yin Ran really think that I don't know her true intentions? If Jiang Yin Ran stopped fighting with her, she wouldn't need to put in so much effort. To her, the more someone wanted something, the more valuable it became and the more satisfaction she'd feel once she obtained it. At Qinghe High School, the performance was in a few days' time. Most of the students didn't go home that weekend and were busy decorating the hall and rehearsing. In the big hall, many classes lined up to rehearse. There were people bustling about, and the whole place felt very lively. The show that Senior Class A was performing was ballet. Jiang Yin Ran and Shin Mengqi were both in it. Class A. Next is Class A's Swan Lake. Is everyone here? The host asked aloud. Wait, there's still one more. She's on the way. She'll be here very soon. The captain of the dance team from Class A replied. Make her hurry. Got it, got it. Who are we waiting on from our class? Someone asked. Shin Mengqi. She went out today, the captain replied. Went out? Where'd she go? How could she be late for the rehearsal? I think I saw her leaving through the school gates with Song Zihang this morning, someone replied softly. Oh, everybody responded like they were suddenly enlightened and looked pointedly at Jiang Yin Ran, who was stretching in the corner. Everyone started whispering. Shin Mengqi and Song Zihang should have started dating already, right? Seems like it. They're a perfect match. Unlike someone here who pestered him and came up with a lie about having an engagement when her plan failed. Exactly. She was obviously the one breaking up the couple and accused Shin Mengqi of being the third party. Jiang Yin Ran was usually arrogant and domineering and had offended quite a number of people. Plus, she was very gifted and was the best at dancing so naturally, they took advantage of the chance to ridicule her. Just as it was Class A's turn to rehearse, a middle-aged woman in a navy blue cheongsam suddenly shoved through the crowd and walked towards the stage. Everyone in the hall was a student. The sudden appearance of a middle-aged woman caused everybody to turn to look at her. Most of them recognized she was Song Zihang's mother. Everybody could see the towering rage across her face. She walked straight to Jiang Yin, ran in her high heels, and slapped her in her face without hesitation. "You shameless little bitch." Chapter 160. Devoted? Mrs. Song's appearance was too sudden, and Jiang Yin Ran didn't manage to dodge in time, so she caught a hard slap to the face. The big lively hall was in total silence all of a sudden. Mrs. Song pointed at Jiang Yin Ran's nose and started yelling, "Ungrateful little bitch, your whole family is trash. Before, you insisted on having your nuptials prearranged with our Zihang, but now that you have power, you've kicked him aside, calling off the wedding and trying to climb up the ladder. Do you really think the Song family is that easily bullied? Tell me, which gigolo did you hook up with behind Zihang's back? The one with the surname Chu?" Zhang Haichao really brought up his daughter well, flirting around when she's engaged to someone. Once you found someone richer, you tossed our Zihang away and even snatched our family's project, forcing our family to the brink of death. I used to treat you like a princess, but you actually think you are one? Based on your talent, looks, and actions, you're not worthy of my son at all. If it wasn't for you wasting his time, my son would have found someone better. My son was so devoted to you. Yet you were so unappreciative and kept criticizing him." Mrs. Song let loose a flood of words, cursing and swearing at her, with each comment getting uglier. As she was an elder, Jiang Yin Ran remained respectful and didn't say a word at all. Her body trembled slightly, and her expression was dazed and numb. She didn't expect that Auntie Song, who was usually so warm and nice towards her, someone who she treated like her own mother in her heart, would actually be so malicious with her words. Could it be that the love she showed for me was fake this whole time? I've never felt unworthy of Song Zihang. Amongst the crowd, Yi Wanwan's gaze paused at Jiang Yin Ran's red and swollen face, and a hint of coldness flashed in her eyes. Suddenly, she exclaimed aloud, "Oh God! Jiang Yin Ran and Song Zihang actually had an engagement? How could that be?" Mrs. Song, who was still in the midst of scolding Yin Ran, heard that questioning voice and became even more enraged. She scanned her eyes over everybody present in the hall and said firmly, "Why wouldn't there be? Did this little bitch lie and say she didn't have anything to do with the Song family? Let me tell all of you, the two of them have been engaged to each other before they were even born. Parents from both families saw their fortunes and exchanged cards. There isn't anybody in our circle who doesn't know they're a pair. My son was so nice to her and pampered her like a princess so devotedly. How could she have the guts to deny this? Everyone, take a look at the true colors of this little bitch. She cheated on my son and even wanted to take down my family's company. How is there such an evil woman in this world?" Oh! Upon hearing what Mrs. Song said, the onlookers were stunned. Damn, what did this woman just say? Song Zihang and Jiang Yin Ran really had an engagement. She actually said that Song Zihang was devoted to Jiang Yin Ran? Mrs. Song noticed that there was something wrong with the way the onlookers looked at her, but couldn't figure out what it was. Yi Wanwan looked at her mockingly and said with doubt, "That's impossible. Auntie, you must be lying. Song Zihang's girlfriend is obviously Shanming Qi. How is he related to Jiang Yin Ran at all?" Mrs. Song couldn't tolerate this kind of accusation and was furious as she blurted out, "I'm lying. I'm Song Zihang's mother. How could my words be fake? Obviously, this little bitch was lying. Who on earth is Shinming Qi? What nonsense are you spouting?" Chapter 161. Twisting the facts. Yi Wanwan protested, "Ming Qi's my best friend. We all know that she's the honorable girlfriend of Song Zihang. I think you're the one spouting nonsense. Are you trying to accuse our Ming Qi of being the third party here? You're too much." What did you say? Zihang's girlfriend? Mrs. Song was shocked. As she looked at Jiang Yin Ran's red and swollen face, a sense of uneasiness arose in her heart. At this point, almost everybody understood what was going on. Yi Wanwan didn't have to continue anymore. A girl standing next to Mrs. Song turned to her and asked, "You're Song Zihang's mom? Did you know that Song Zihang declared to the whole school that he doesn't have anything to do with Jiang Yinran, and even said that the engagement didn't exist? He said it was just a joke between the two families, and then he confessed his love to another girl on the spot. Mrs. Song came to her senses and replied angrily, This can't be true. How could my son do something like that? Stop attacking him. Some people couldn't tolerate this any further and started talking all at once. How are we attacking him? Everybody in school knows about this. We're all witnesses, okay? That's right. When Jiang Yinran found out that Song Zihang had a secret date with her best friend, Shen Mingqi, she had a fight with her. We were all initially helping Jiang Yinran scold Mingqi, but in the end, Song Zihang slapped Jiang Yinran in front of everyone and announced on the school's forum that he didn't have an engagement with her. If you don't believe us, you can see it for yourself on the forum. Look for the video of Jiang Yinran attacking the third party and Song Zihang defending the third party. The announcement and everything else are on there. Song Zihang confessed to Shen Mingqi in a very grand way with candles and flowers, and they've been together constantly these past few days. You're now saying that he and Jiang Yinran were engaged? Don't you think that's a bit contradictory? At this time, the speculations were getting louder, and everybody was shocked at this turn of events. I didn't think that Song Zihang had been lying this whole time to protect the third party. Shen Mingqi really was the third party. I thought Song Zihang was quite manly at first, but who knew he was a scumbag who hooked up with his fiancée's best friend behind her back? His mom actually dared to say he was devoted to Jiang Yinran? Where did she find the guts to say that? What do you mean behind her back? He hooked up with that girl right under Jiang Yinran's nose. TSK. Also, the big project that Song Zihang has been boasting about was busted already, probably as revenge from the Jiang family. He deserves it. I thought the Song family was powerful, but they only relied on help from the Jiang family. His mom actually came down to school to twist the facts and slap Jiang Yinran, putting the blame on the victim. Oh my God, this has me totally twisted. What kind of people are in this family? They're just a pack of ungrateful wolves. They're shameless. Mrs. Song became paler and paler when she heard the overwhelming ridicule and insults circling around her. Her initial plan was to find Jiang Yinran to seek revenge and ruin her reputation, but instead, she learnt the truth and almost fainted on the spot. The reason why the Jiang family wanted to call off the engagement suddenly was because of this. Zihang denied the engagement in front of everyone and hooked up with another girl in school immediately after. This is impossible. This is completely impossible. Yi Wanwan caught a glimpse of a figure trying to sneak off into the crowd, and she rushed over nimbly, grabbed onto Shan Mingqi's elbow and said anxiously, Mingqi, you're finally here. Hurry, explain things to everyone. They're too much. They actually said that you're a shameless third party. You're definitely not this kind of person, right? Suddenly, everybody turned to Yi Wanwan and saw the flustered Shan Mingqi standing next to Song Zihang. Chapter 162. Avoiding Responsibility? Yi Wanwan's words seemed to defend Shan Mingqi, yet they pushed her directly into the eye of the storm once again. It's fine that this ugly freak isn't good-looking, but is there something wrong with her brain too? Zihang's mom already said that there was an engagement, yet Wanwan still thinks it was a misunderstanding. What else should we call Mingqi other than the third party? Song Zihang has really tested my limits. On one hand, he was relying on his fiancée's family's support, and on the other, he went with a slut in front of her. His family is on the verge of bankruptcy, and yet, he's still fooling around and trying to put up a front, acting like a rich young kid. Shen Mingqi tried shaking her off, but before she managed to weasel out of Yi Wanwan's grasp, she was blocked by the crowd. She was astounded. She never expected that things would turn out this way. She always aimed high. Her greatest goal was to be with Si Han, but she knew very well how distant that man was and low the possibility of being with him was. So she didn't act silly and sit around to wait for an unobtainable target. She'd be graduating soon and was preparing to enter the entertainment industry, so she needed a strong backer. She knew her strengths very well. Unlike those old foxes who'd already entered high society, these little boys in school were easier to entrap. Among the boys whom she paid attention to, Only the young master of the Zheng family was up to par. Although all these rich kids had honorable families, they didn't have much authority at home. She had to wait many years for him to take over the business and manage the household. She tried probing him a few times, but after she found out she couldn't get what she wanted from him, she left him hanging and treated him like a spare tire, just like how she treated every other guy. But Song Zihang was different. Once he graduated, he'd be able to enter the family company. Furthermore, after they got that government project, they'd generate large profits and capital instantly. It was smooth sailing at first. During today's date, Song Zihang had promised her that once he graduated, he'd convince his dad to invest in a $1 million movie and designate her as the female lead. The male lead and important supporting roles would also be from their company. If she was able to pull such a big investment, she could immediately gain a foothold in the entertainment industry, while allowing the company to gain recognition. After the date, Song Zihang said that he wanted to accompany her to rehearsal, and she readily agreed, eager to show off her trophy to Jiang Yanran. Who would have guessed that once they stepped in, they'd see Song Zihang's mother making a scene in the hall, telling everyone about the engagement between Song Zihang and Jiang Yanran? Not only that, what did Mrs. Song just say? Not to mention the big project that the Song family didn't get, but now, they're being forced by the Jiang family to the verge of bankruptcy. Just a second ago, Song Zihang said boldly that he wanted to make me the most popular actress. He even said that the Jiang family wouldn't be able to do that without the Songs and didn't dare to offend them. He was actually lying to me from the start. The boy that she'd laboriously scavenged would soon become a worthless pauper. If she'd known this earlier, she would have spent all her efforts on Zheng Bin. Hearing all the nasty comments around him and facing Shan Mengqi's stare, Song Zihang turned pale and went into a frantic rage. He dashed to his mom. "Mom, are you crazy? What are you doing here? You're asking me? Let me ask you, were they telling the truth? You really went to find a woman behind Yin Rant's back? She's the one?" Mrs. Song shot daggers at Shen Mengqi. Due to Yi Wanwan holding her back, Shen Mengqi didn't manage to escape in time and could only hide behind Song Zihang. Song Zihang's face darkened as he protected Shen Mengqi. "Mom, let's go home and talk." Chapter 163. Made a fool out of you with the bare truth in front of her. Mrs. Song felt as if heaven and earth were falling down. When she thought about how she slapped Jiang Yanran and how she could never take that back, she felt so remorseful that her intestines turned green. Under her rage and panic, she had shifted all her hatred onto that woman. Now, she charged at Shen Mengqi and grabbed her by the hair. "You shameless bitch. You're the one who seduced my son, right? I'll beat you to death, you shit. Seducing someone else's fiancé at such a young age. How did your parents raise you?" Shen Mengqi didn't expect that a casual comment by Yi Wanwan could have this effect. Her scalp was nearly ripped out by Mrs. Song as she shrieked in pain. I didn't. I don't know. I don't know anything. You don't know? You're still pretending now? You saw that our Zihang was a good chance for you to climb your way up. I've seen many people like you." Song Zihang saw that his sweetheart was being scolded and beaten by his mother and started panicking. "Mom, what are you doing? Let Mengqi go. I told you, this has nothing to do with Mengqi. I'm the only one at fault. So what if I like Mengqi? She's simple and kind, 1,000 times better than Jiang Yanran." "Shut up. Get over here and apologize to Yanran. I think your heart's covered in pig oil. What the hell did you feed my son, you wretch? Bring your parents here. I want to see which family raised such a shameless daughter." Song Zihang looked at how Shen Mengqi was in tears and his heart almost shattered. "I'm not apologizing. Why should I apologize? Even if I hadn't done what I did, the Jiang family already had these intentions. You think Jiang Yanran's any more faithful? She ran straight to the gigolo from the Chu family right after." Shen Mengqi was sobbing. "Auntie, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I really didn't know that Zihang was already engaged. I'm really in love with him. Zihang's an outstanding guy. I'm sure many girls are attracted to him. At first, I held my feelings back because of Yin Ran, but it was Zihang who gave me courage. But if I'd known that he and Yin Ran were engaged, I would never have gone between them. Shen Mingqi's tears were like raindrops on a pear blossom, and she managed to cast all blame aside with just a few words. She'd even portrayed herself as a victim. That woeful and pitiful face not only made Song Zihang heartbroken, but even Mrs. Song had a change of heart when she heard her praising her son. Her heart softened, and everybody was moved by her words. Judging by Shen Mingqi's looks, she really couldn't have known about it, right? She was probably lied to by that scumbag Song. Shen Mingqi's simply too innocent. Scumbags cause tons of trouble. Yi Wanwan hid in the crowd, and a smirk surfaced on her mouth. Even now, she's still trying in vain to get herself acquitted. I'm really looking forward to seeing Song Zihang's reaction when he finds out that he's been made a fool and was treated as a spare tire and a sucker this whole time. Yi Wanwan walked silently over to a secluded corner and made a call. Hello, Zheng Bin. I'm Mingqi's friend. She's in some trouble right now and is being bullied by Song Zihang. You should come over quick. We're at the school hall, yes. It's really urgent, and you're the only one who can help Mingqi out of this. Chapter 164. My woman. After she called Zheng Bin, Yi Wanwan glanced at the crowd and realized that more and more people were speaking up for Shan Mingqi, most of them her admirers. Seeing their goddess being hurt by a scumbag, these people were heartbroken and started scolding Song Zihang and his mother. They even pulled Jiang Yin Ran back into the picture and scolded her as well. It was as if the most innocent person was Shan Mingqi. Jiang Yin Ran looked coldly at Shen Mingqi, who had her beautiful little face covered in tears, looking very pitiful and begging for forgiveness. Then she turned to look at Song Zihang, who was criticizing her nonstop. She closed her eyes tiredly, wanting to leave. Yi Wanwan crept over to Jiang Yin Ran's side and lowered her voice. Are you happy with this? Don't worry, there's more coming. Jiang Yin Ran looked at Yi Wanwan blankly. Yi Wanwan laughed lightly. Do you remember what I promised you before? Jiang Yin Ran instinctively recalled what Yi Wanwan said to her by the lake. She said, Big Missy Jiang, do you want Song Zihang to fall madly in love with you? Want to reveal Shen Mingqi's true colors in front of everyone and ruin her reputation? Want to let Song Zihang see Shen Mingqi's true colors and regret not choosing you before? It was these words that kept her going when she was at her lowest point. She wasn't sure what Yi Wanwan was planning, but she knew that she'd definitely deliver on her promise. At this moment, Mrs. Song was tugging at Shen Mingqi's hair and yelling at her in fury. Song Zihang tried his best to protect her and glared at Jiang Yin Ran with deep hatred. Jiang Yin Ran, I've lost my reputation thanks to you. Are you happy? Are you satisfied now? Shen Mingqi was choked with tears. Yin Ran, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Mingqi, you did nothing wrong. Don't apologize to this evil woman. It's my fault for not protecting you better. I should be glad that I saw this woman's true colors before it was too late. Yi Wanwan watched by the side in admiration. Under these circumstances, Shen Mingqi was still able to count on her lies and acting skills to reverse a hopeless situation, regaining her innocent persona. Song Zihang, who'd been used from the beginning and took all the blame at this critical moment, still defended her and spoke up for her voluntarily. Mom, I'd rather die than apologize to this flirt. I'll love only Shen Mingqi in this lifetime. Shen Mingqi's tears triggered the burning anger in Song Zihang's heart. As a proud man, he'd never apologize to Jiang Yin Ran in front of the woman he loved, no matter what. Just as Song Zihang was protecting his sweetheart with self-righteousness and everybody felt touched, a boy rushed over suddenly and pushed Song Zihang aside. Embracing Shen Mingqi in his arms, Song Zihang, you're a bastard. You're spouting nonsense. Mingqi's my woman. She has nothing to do with you. You're a perverted scumbag, shamelessly harassing Mingqi all the time. Song Zihang felt dizzy from the push, and when he saw Shen Mingqi in the other boy's arms, he was enraged. I've been harassing Mingqi? Bastard. Who do you think you are? Let go of her. Zhang Bin refused to let her go and replied loftily, Me? I'm the person whom Mingqi truly loves. Zhang Bin, why are you here? Shen Mingqi was flustered. Her gut feeling told her something wasn't right, and she tried to send him away. It's none of your business. Get going. Chapter 165. Refusing to give up, Zhengbin saw Shan Mengqi's tear-stained face and became even more protective, refusing to leave. I'm not going back. If I hadn't come, you'd be bullied to the death. I have to expose the true colors of this scumbag to everyone. The two guys were so aggravated, like a pair of roosters fighting. They were both unwilling to step back, and Shan Mengqi was completely unable to stop them. She could only watch as they fought in front of everybody. Song Ziheng yelled, "Tell me, what do you mean by my true colors?" Zhang Bin didn't want to be outdone, so he retorted, "You're a toad lusting after a swan. You knew Mengqi had a boyfriend, but you keep harassing her." Huh, what a joke. Mengqi's my girlfriend. How could I harass her? Are you insane? Mengqi's boyfriend? Don't tell me you're talking about yourself. Song Ziheng sneered without a care for Zhang Bin's words. He simply treated him as one of Mengqi's suitors who had come over to cause trouble out of jealousy. Zhang Bin blurted in a fit of rage, "Yesterday, Mengqi and I even spoke on the phone the entire night, and she told me herself that you were harassing her." Shin Mengqi's heart thumped, and she quickly interrupted, "Stop fighting. There has to be some misunderstanding. Can we talk about this in private? Stop making a show for everyone to see. All right?" Shin Mengqi tried to persuade the two of them anxiously. Upon seeing Shan Mengqi's pleading gaze, Song Ziheng and Zhang Bin hesitated. Not far off, Yuan Wan narrowed her eyes. If she gave Shin Mengqi some breathing space today, she was sure that Shin Mengqi would be able to appease these two guys very quickly. Thus, Yuan Wan rushed out and pointed towards Song Ziheng, burning with indignation, and scolded him. "Well done, Song Ziheng. I thought you were true to Mengqi, but who knew that you've been harassing and forcing her to be with you? How could you do that? Do you think you're worthy of Yin Ran, worthy of Mengqi? You're an ass-hit asterisk." Song Ziheng was aggravated again with Yuan Wan annoying him. "Ugly freak. Get out of my way. Don't try to act all smart in front of me. I've said it before, I didn't force Mengqi to do anything. You can ask her if you don't believe me." Shin Mengqi was so angry that she started to feel faint. She shot a look at Yuan Wan and really wanted to kill her. On the other side, Zhang Bin's fury arose as well. "Song Ziheng, I guess you're not going to give up until you see the grave. You had Jiang Yin Ran on one hand and secretly hooked up with Mengqi on the other. Mengqi didn't embarrass you on the spot only because you were her classmate and also out of respect for Jiang Yin Ran. In the end, you took advantage of her kindness and harassed her every single day. Let me tell you, you don't have to ask Mengqi. Listen to this yourself." Zhang Bin brought his phone out and tapped a few times. Suddenly, a conversation between a guy and a girl played on his phone. "Mengqi, what's going on between you and Song Ziheng?" This was Zhang Bin's voice. "I've already said that I have nothing to do with him at all. He's the guy that Yin Ran likes. How could I be with him? It's just that he keeps harassing me, and I can't do anything about it." This familiar voice was obviously Shan Mengqi's. "Let's go public with our relationship then. Tell him and everyone else that I'm your boyfriend. He'll give up then." "No way. We can't go public. My parents are against me dating." "Then why don't you tell Song Ziheng that you have a boyfriend? You're not even treating me like your boyfriend." Chapter 166. Confrontation. "Of course, I've told him before, but it was no use. How could you say that about me? If you don't believe me, then maybe we should just break up." I believe you. Mengqi, don't be mad. I just hate that Song Ziheng keeps harassing you. He still wouldn't let go after finding out that you've got a boyfriend? This kind of person needs a beating. I'll see to that someday. Don't be rash. He's Yin Ran's crush after all, and I don't want to make a big thing of it. Anyway, so what if he keeps harassing me? You're the one I love. You're my boyfriend, not him. Don't be mad anymore, all right? Give me a kiss then." Following that was Shin Mengqi and Zhang Bin's lovey-dovey talk, and Zhang Bin kept playing it out loud with pride. "Turn it off. Turn it off now." Shin Mengqi nearly went berserk when she heard the recording and screamed as she stared at Zhang Bin. "Why? Why did you record this?" Upon seeing Shin Mengqi's reaction, Zhang Bin frowned and his face darkened. "Mengqi, what's wrong? I can't let him bully you anymore. As for the recording, I've been recording every conversation we've had over the phone so I can hear your voice. I had to do this since you said that you want to focus on your studies, so you can't go out on more dates with me. Shin Mingqi stood there with her back stiffened. All she felt was the earth and sky spinning. She didn't dare to look at Song Zihang's face or the looks of all the witnesses. When Yu Wanwan heard the recording, it was as if she gained confidence, and she marched to Song Zihang triumphantly. Scumbag. What do you have to say now? I knew it. Mingqi's such a nice and kind person. How could she be with you even after finding out that Yin Ran likes you? So it was you, scumbag, who was driving a wedge between them. Mingqi has a boyfriend, and you still wouldn't let her go. You have no sense of shame. After Song Zihang heard that recording, he stood there in a daze like he'd been struck by lightning, his face in total disbelief. And what Yu Wanwan just said jabbed him right in the heart. Song Zihang was so mad that he was shaking. His face contorted in anger, and his fury reached its peak. He gritted his teeth, his intense gaze directed at Shen Mingqi. Shen Mingqi, I've been harassing you? I've forced you? I'm shameless? When we were at the theme park before, who was the one who said she had feelings for me all along? Who was the one who said that her heart broke each time she saw me with Yin Ran? Who was the one who promised me that she'd be with me after we graduate? Who was the one who made the move to kiss me? Damn it. Since when have I ever forced you to do anything? Also, this guy. What's going on between you and him? You already accepted my confession the other day, but you were still on the phone with him last night? And you said he's your boyfriend? What about me then? What am I? Song Zihang tossed out a huge stack of photos from his bag and threw it at Shin Mingqi's face. Every single one was intimate photos of the two of them. Shin Mingqi looked very sweet and didn't look like she was being forced at all. Song Zihang grabbed Shin Mingqi's wrist. There was a silver ring on her finger, and it was a couple ring matching the one on his finger. Forced? Her ring, her necklace, and this entire outfit. I paid for all of it. Zhang Bin was dumbfounded. This is impossible. I've been with Mingqi for half a year. Following that, the two of them kept quarreling, going back and forth with each other, thoroughly unmasking Shan Mingqi's cover. Chapter 167. Capsized. Shan Mingqi had managed her relationships well. After Song Zihang's confession, she didn't reply to him on the spot and only acknowledged their relationship in private, but denied it completely in front of Zhang Bin, claiming that Song Zihang was harassing her. Shin Mingqi thought that she could fool everyone. Who knew that the two of them would bump into each other? When the two of them met, they confronted each other and were initially fooled by her acting, but her lies were now exposed. At this moment, the crowd watched as the two people fought. The information Song Zihang and Zhang Bin disclosed got more and more shocking, and the onlookers were flabbergasted. Damn, what a plot twist. So it was Shin Mingqi who was seducing Song Zihang. And now there's Zhang Bin involved. Oh my god, was she two-timing? Shin Mingqi actually had the both of them fooled. What do you mean the both of them? She stole her best friend's boyfriend, two-timed, and told endless lies. We were all fooled. Zihang, that's enough. Aren't you embarrassed enough? You caused our Song family and yourself to be in this predicament just for this bitch? You. Mrs. Song gave her precious son a slap. Mrs. Song then grabbed Shin Mingqi and slapped her twice, on her left and right cheeks. Wretch, how dare you seduce a Song? Song Zihang stood there, battered out of his senses as his cheeks burned. He was speechless and didn't react even when his mom slapped Shin Mingqi. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that the girl he'd always liked was this kind of person, toying with his feelings all this time, and even dating another guy while she was cuddling with him. As for him, in order to protect her reputation from being ruined, he was made a total fool. You bitch. How dare you lie to me? You actually dared to lie to me. It was as if Song Zihang was suddenly awakened, and he charged towards Shen Mingqi like a madman. Zihang, hear me out. Shen Mingqi was knocked out of breath from his tight grip and shouted in fear, Zhang Bin, help me. Why would Zhang Bin save her? It was a blessing that he didn't join in and kick her. He was so angry that his eyes were red. Shen Mingqi, You're good, you're good. Just because I couldn't give you what you wanted. I couldn't help you become a big star. You want to find another man, and even kept me in the dark this whole time. I thought I was your true love, and didn't dare to keep you from your studies. I didn't dare to tell anybody about our relationship, but you used me as a spare tire. Other than Song Zihang, who else do you have in your trap? How many other guys were you cheating on? Hearing Zhang Bin's bellow of rage, everybody clicked their tongues in disapproval and looked at Shen Mengqi's disheveled hair and battered face without any sympathy for her. She deserves it. The boat's finally capsized this time, one. How could you not get your shoes wet if you keep walking by the river? What an eye-opener today. Innocent goddess of Qinghe, my ass. More like a scheming woman, a vixen. I didn't. It's not like that. Shen Mengqi slumped onto the floor and shook her head vigorously, the comments around her cutting her like a knife. All along, she was a good student in everyone's eyes and a goddess in every guy's heart. She had never received such menacing glares and horrible insults in her entire life. Her mind was in a blur. She had no idea how things ended up this way and how she got into this state. Chapter 168. Daddy Jiang to the rescue. Yi Wanwan stood a few steps away and watched as Shen Mengqi slumped onto the floor. After some time, she slowly walked over with a face filled with heartache and said softly, Mengqi, how could this happen? How could you do something like that? What about my brother? Did you also ditch him because he was no longer useful to you? Or is my brother still a spare tire because he still has some use for you? Hearing this, Shen Mengqi suddenly seemed to wake up. She didn't expect that Yi Wanwan could speak right to her heart. She immediately explained anxiously, I didn't. Wanwan, you have to believe me. This was all a misunderstanding. How could I do this to Mu Fan Ji1? I really wanted to help him. Seeing that Shen Mengqi still acted so fake when there was irrefutable evidence made everybody despise her even more. At this time, only the ugly freak, Yi Wanwan, is still listening to Shen Mengqi's fake honeyed words. So it really was Shen Mengqi's strategy all along. Seducing whoever was powerful, and when something went amiss, she'd find a spare tire immediately. Not far off, Jiang Yanran was speechless as she watched how Yi Wanwan forced Shen Mengqi into this pathetic state single-handedly. Shen Mengqi was acting totally clueless and trying to explain things to Yi Wanwan, looking really anxious. At this moment, Song Ziheng pushed Shen Mengqi away and rushed over to Jiang Yanran in tears. Yanran, please forgive me. I didn't know things would end up this way. That woman tricked me. I really didn't expect she would be so scheming, shamelessly seducing me from the start. Please forgive me this once. At this moment, Mrs. Song was in a rage. Song Zihang had actually been fooled by a little wretch, bringing embarrassment to the Song family. Yanran, you saw it too. It was all because of this bitch who seduced Zihang. Can you forgive him this time for Andy's sake? Which man hasn't made mistakes before? I've beaten and scolded him, and he'll never dare do it ever again and will be with you happily. Go back and explain this to your dad. We can't let the issue with the company drag on. This dismissive tone of Mrs. Song made Jiang Yanran frown. She pressed her lips together and replied, Annie Song, I'm sorry, I can't make decisions for the company. As for the engagement, it was exactly like what Zihang said before. It was just a joke by the elders. I just didn't see it clearly before. Upon seeing Jiang Yanran's stubbornness, Mrs. Song's face turned gloomy. Yanran, do you really want to be so ruthless? Zihang and I have already apologized to you, but you're still so relentless. Do you want to ruin this long-term relationship between our families over this small issue? The moment Mrs. Song spoke, an angry voice resounded from the opposite side. Yanran, what happened to your face? Jiang Haichao rushed over anxiously, and behind him was Song Zihang's father, Song Xiaowei. Seeing her dad, Jiang Yanran was a little surprised as she covered her red and swollen face with her hand. Daddy, why were you here? I'm fine. When Jiang Haichao saw that his beloved daughter, whom he spoiled from a young age and didn't even dare lay a finger on, had gotten slapped by someone, he couldn't contain his fury. Who hit you? Was it Qin Rulan? She actually dared to hit you? Mrs. Song didn't expect that Jiang Haichao would appear, and she grew anxious and quickly explained, "Old Jiang, why did you come down here personally? This was a misunderstanding. I didn't do it on purpose. Actually, it was just a small issue from the start. We really didn't have to drag so many people into this." Jiang Haichao hugged his daughter and was in a towering rage. "Tisk, small issue? My daughter was bullied by your son to the point where she wanted to commit suicide. Is this what you call a small issue?" After Yin Ran's mom and I received the call that night, we rushed down to school immediately. If it wasn't for someone saving Yin Ran, we'd be looking at her dead body. You call this a small issue? So in your eyes, our Yin Ran's life is just a small issue. Qin Rulan, Song Xiaowei. Do you really think the Jiangs are pushovers? Chapter 169. An idiot or two. Old Jiang, that wasn't what I meant. You said Yin Ran tried to commit suicide. I had no idea about this. Mrs. Song was shocked. Song Xiaowei's face changed. His face was dark as he looked at his wife and son. Both of them unable to achieve anything but were great at sabotaging things. He had finally managed to meet Jiang Haichao today to find out what he did wrong. In the end, he learned it was his own son who betrayed Yin Ran first, making him lose all face in front of Jiang Haichao. He tried so hard to persuade Jiang Haichao to be more lenient, on account of the friendship between the two families in order to work together on the project. But then, Song Xiaowei suddenly received a call saying that his wife had gone to the school to stir up trouble. Song Xiaowei glared at his wife and son and could only summon up the courage to say, "Old Jiang, I'm really sorry, Rulan and I were ignorant. If we'd known about this, we never would have let this bastard off." Jiang Haichao sneered, "Ignorant? You guys were obviously ignorant. I recently found out my daughter helped your son get water, washed their clothes and delivered breakfast every day like a servant. Found out that your son cheated on Yin Ran right under her nose and embarrassed her. Found out that he helped another girl insult her. Found out that Yin Ran actually suffered so much. Let me tell you, Song Xiaowei, Qin Rulan, this isn't the end of it. Just wait for your bankruptcy." Jiang Haichao didn't bother with the Song family's explanation and left with his daughter immediately. After everybody found out the truth from Jiang Haichao, they started criticizing the three of them with spiteful stares. That's too ungrateful of them. How could there be such a shameless family? At the school entrance, Jiang Yin Ran had to pacify her father for a long time before she finally managed to calm him down. Once calm, she sent him back home. "Wanwan, you called my dad?" Jiang Yin Ran asked. Yi Wanwan nodded, just in case. It was safer to have a backup. "Thank you," Jiang Yin Ran replied gratefully. She always has a well-thought-out plan. "Don't mention it. I did it for myself too," Yi Wanwan replied. Jiang Yin Ran said, "Even if Shin Mingqi tries to talk her way out this time, nobody will believe her anymore." Yi Wanwan pinched her eyebrows like she had a headache. "There'll always be an idiot or two who'll believe her." Are you saying, Senior Yi?" Jiang Yin Ran asked in concern. Yi Wanwan didn't comment. After all, the IQ of a person in love is in the negative. She knew this very well herself. In her previous life, her brother was still very devoted to Shen Mingqi even after witnessing her flirting with another guy. He even felt useless for not being able to protect the girl he loved. She already knew how hard it would be to brainwash him. After all, you and Senior Yi are blood siblings. Just talk to him nicely. He'll definitely be on your side, Jiang Yin Ran reassured her. Yi Wanwan took a deep breath and looked at the time on her phone. "No worries, since I exposed Shin Mingqi once, I can expose her again. Don't worry about me. You should head back and have a good rest or find some place to relax." "All right. Do you have any plans later?" Jiang Yin Ran asked. "Today's Saturday. I have to go over to my boyfriend's grandmother's place to have dinner. Give me a call if you need anything." "Sure." After she parted with Jiang Yin Ran, Yi Wanwan returned to the dorm to get changed and removed her makeup. Then, she left through the back door. The familiar black car was already waiting for her at the same place as always. Chapter 170. Pouncing on the great devil. Yi Wanwan's long hair was straight like a waterfall and she wore a white dress. She patted her face gently and went into the state of a little innocent white rabbit. When she approached the car, the door of the driver's seat opened and Sui quickly got out, opening the door of the back seat for her. At the same time, he couldn't help but stare at her. Although this wasn't the first time he saw her like that, it amazed him every single time. In the back seat, Si-han was busy. He had his laptop out in front of him and a Bluetooth headset on, seemingly in a video conference. She was unsure whether it was because the conference wasn't going smoothly, but Si-han didn't look too good. His forehead had a trace of faint anger, and the surrounding atmosphere felt dangerous. Yi Wanwan obviously didn't dare to provoke him. She sat in the corner seat obediently and tried to minimize her presence. When she looked up inadvertently, she suddenly noticed that aside from Sui, there was a teenager sitting in the front passenger seat. As usual, the teenager was in an all-black outfit. He had short, neat hair, and his expression was stern and sharp, like a weapon. He was the most formidable expert under Si-han, Lu Ying, the person she met in Jing Garden. When Yi Wanwan looked up, she met Lu Ying's gaze in the rearview mirror. He had the same contemptuous and disdainful look as usual. As for his gaze, Yi Wanwan was already used to it. All the subordinates under Si-han viewed her as a bewitching demon, similar to Bao Si and Deji, who were infamous concubines who caused damage and suffering to the people in China. The only difference from her previous life was that in this life, she returned to her original appearance, which was more in line with her title of a troublemaking beauty and also attracted more hatred. Although she was already accustomed to it, she didn't want to accept these stares like she'd done in her previous life. She really hated the way this guy looked at her. He must be having so much fun calling me a vixen and witch in his heart, right? Damn it, your master is obviously the one fighting over me, all right? Don't be so unreasonable. If she didn't prove his accusation to be true, wouldn't that be a waste? Yi Wanwan glanced at Si-han. His face was cold while speaking to his senior management on the screen. She didn't understand everything that came out from his lips. Lu Ying noticed that she kept looking at Si-han, and his gaze became more alert and spiteful. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips turned upwards. In the next second, she suddenly pounced onto Si-han. Si-han was caught off guard and got knocked over. He frowned and was about to speak, but was quickly covered by a soft sweetness. Si-han was obviously stunned. His obscure eyes turned deep almost instantaneously, like a giant whirlpool. His long, slender fingers then quickly closed the laptop shut and cut off the screen of the other party. In the video conference, the senior management on the other end was initially focused on the meeting, but then, suddenly a beauty appeared on the screen and it seemed like she'd pounced on their boss. When they tried to have a closer look, the screen turned black. Damn, woman? A woman actually pounced on the boss just now, in the middle of a meeting. At the same time, there was something darker than the screen, Lu Ying's face. His eyes were as wide as an ox's bell. His cheeks were flushed and his whole face was in disbelief. He was on the verge of exploding. He was actually flabbergasted by the shameless behavior of Yi Wanwan. Even though Sui had seen this many times before, he still felt awkward every time and quickly pulled up the divider, cutting off the scene at the back. Yi Wanwan shot a look from the corner of her eye to Lu Ying's black face. She felt slightly appeased. However, after she let off some steam, she realized she had a bigger problem. Yi Wanwan blinked her eyes stiffly and looked at the great devil she pounced on. Her impulsive decision. She must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall to possess the courage. How did she have the guts to pounce on Si-han? Chapter 171. Dignity. At that moment, Yi Wanwan broke out in a cold sweat. This time, she had truly only hurt her enemy 800 times, but hurt herself by 1,000. There was nothing that could be done right now. She already pounced on him and could only keep going from there. Yi Wanwan laid on his chest like a neglected concubine and whined. I've been here for so long, but you don't even care. What's so good about watching this? You've been looking at this the whole time. Is it better looking than I am? Who's better looking, me or this thing? These were truly the words of a troublemaking beauty. The divider was able to block the visuals, but not the sounds in the car. Lu Ying would probably be pissed to death when he heard that. It was almost as if she could hear the gritting of teeth from the front. In fact, Yuanwan was right. Lu Ying had already unsheathed the sword that he usually brought with him. This demonic woman. Even the words he bellowed were exactly the same as Yuanwan imagined. Sui quickly stopped him, lowered his voice and said nervously, "Keep it down. It's not your first day knowing about this. Why are you still so rash? What if Master hears you? Do you want to die?" The teenager next to Sui was so mad that his hair was almost on fire. How could he swallow this down? This woman's been so weird lately. She obviously has bad intentions. Why is Master so blind, not putting his guard up against her? Sui hurriedly reassured him. She's just a little silly girl. How much harm can she do? Don't worry. Lu Ying scoffed. "TSK. What can she do? She did that on purpose just now. She did it on purpose for me to see. She's driving a wedge between Ninth Master and me. What on earth do you mean by that? Don't make her sound like your love rival, all right? In any case, just stay calm. Even if she's a demon, do you think our master is a fool? What kind of person do you think he is?" Sui said. Hearing this, Lu Ying's anger slowly dissipated. After all, Si Han was a perfect god in his heart. How could he be a fool? However, the moment Sui finished speaking, the two of them heard the master's hoarse and low voice coming from the back. "You're better looking." Lu Ying, Sui. Yuanwan didn't stop there, probably because she saw that Si Han wasn't mad, so she gathered her courage again. Yuanwan shot a look towards the front of the car and continued questioning Si Han. "Then what if one day Lu Ying and I fell into a river? Who would you save first?" Lu Ying, Sui, Yua. What kind of question was that? I've got to kowtow to Yuanwan for her courage. I didn't think this woman would be scarier when she's submissive to the master than when she's disobedient and causing trouble. The atmosphere was stagnant. After some silence, the man's voice finally traveled to the front. "Save you. Lu Ying, where's my knife?" Sui. At this moment, Lu Ying's expression was akin to a whiny wife, and Sui could almost see the black cloud of resentment emanating from the top of his head. Afraid that Lu Ying would lose control and butcher Yuanwan, Sui persuaded him urgently. "Lu Ying, put your knife down. Please calm down. The master still loves you. Master said that purely because you can swim and don't need his help at all. Let's not stoop to the level of that little demon. We must have dignity. Have some dignity." Sui was busy trying to talk him out of it, but suddenly, he realized that his tone was a little weird, like he's persuading a jealous lover. Chapter 172. I'm just pure and innocent, he. Upon hearing Si Han choosing her without any hesitation, Yuanwan felt appeased and satisfied. Si Han grabbed her waist to prevent her from falling and spoke softly into her ear. "Are you done messing around? Did I just get caught for making trouble?" Yuanwan whined meekly. "Who asked Lu Ying to look at me like I'm a troublemaking vixen? I'm so pure and innocent." Pure and innocent? Si Han's gaze swept over her. Did she just say she's pure and innocent? Yuanwan coughed lightly, feeling slightly abashed. She then pouted. "He doesn't like me. I hate him. Don't provoke him." A tinge of warning lingered in Si Han's tone. Yuanwan gave a pained expression. "You're being totally biased." Si Han slowly looked at her with his cold eyes. "I am, in fact, biased." Yuanwan, fine, fine. I'll admit that Si Han already gave me face and has been very giving to me. Anyway, it's an eye for an eye. If he glares at me again, I'm going to hurt his master, to anger him to death. Yuanwan said. Si Han. As Lu Ying's master, Si Han never expected to get dragged into Lu Ying's troubles for just being an innocent bystander. Should I give Lu Ying a raise then? Shortly, the car arrived at the old house. When they got out, Yuanwan met Lu Ying's gaze. As expected, his eyes were filled with a cold, murderous intent. Yuanwan knew that a feud had been forged today. But so what? There's a perfect gem, Qin Ruashi, in front of him anyway, so no matter what I do, that guy will never like me. I'm a troublemaker and a pampered princess, so what? In her previous life, she was most afraid of Si Han. But aside from him, she was also terrified of these two killing machines by his side. Each time he looked at her with his icy glare, she felt as if her flesh was being sliced into. She was also warned and threatened every 2 to 3 days and was surrounded by guards like she was a thief. Even after being in Jean Garden for so many years, even when Si Han gave her the best of everything, she never felt like she belonged. All the wrongs she'd suffered quietly all those years, she had to get revenge for all of them in this life. Since I can't go back to being an innocent teenager anymore, what's the harm in acting like a demon this time around? After they entered, the old lady saw that both Yi Wan and Si Han had arrived, and a big smile spread across her face. "You're back, Si Han?" And the old lady looked at her precious grandson grumpily, then pulled Yi Wan to her warmly. "Wan, come over quickly. Let Grandma take a look at you." "Grandma," Yi Wan called out to her sweetly. It was no wonder that the old lady had a good impression of her. Other than the fact that she didn't make any mistakes this time around, Yi Wan's look was very pleasing. Both her appearance and temperament were very likable. She looked very gentle and obedient, simple and innocent, inciting people to let their guard down instinctively and dote on her. "Not bad. Thankfully you didn't become skinnier. It looks like you've gained some weight. You're still too skinny. You have to eat more." The old madam pulled her in and scanned her up and down, nodding approvingly. Yi Wan was really too skinny before, like she could be blown away by the wind. Recently, she managed to get some nourishment, but as a whole, she was still a little skinny. But with her appetite now, there was no doubt that she'd be fattened up in no time. Also, if she kept binging, she might even return to being as fat as before. "Got it, Grandma. I'll eat more." "Good girl." "Oh, right, Grandma almost forgot. Wan, come. Grandma wants you to meet someone." The old madam brought her into the house with a wide smile on her face. Chapter 173. Finally, they meet again. "She wants me to meet someone? Someone whom the old madam wants to introduce me to specifically. Who could it be?" Yi Wan stayed by the old madam's side with a look of suspicion. They walked past the living room and entered the lawn. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared before her eyes without warning. All she saw was in front of a few precious peony trees, stood a tall and slender silhouette. The girl had curly chestnut-colored hair. She wore a casual camel coat and didn't look very stunning, yet was elegant and graceful. Every movement revealed grandeur and classiness that only a true aristocrat could exude. Even with the girl's elegance, the grimness between her brows matched up to a man's. This was Imperial City's #1 goddess Qin Ruoxi. She finally got to meet her again after such a long time following her rebirth. The moment Yi Wan saw who it was, her pupils constricted and her instincts heightened her vigilance and guard as if she saw her arch-enemy. "Wan, this is my grandniece, Qin Ruoxi. She's little Nine's good friend as well." The old madam introduced her with an incredible pride and arrogance. Yi Wan's brain managed to cool down slightly as countless memories came flooding back. Si Han's late grandfather had a sworn brother called Qin Bingsong. Qin Ruoxi was Qin Bingsong's granddaughter. Qin Ruoxi wasn't simply little Nine's friend, like how the old madam described. She was Si Han's right-hand person, someone at his side who was irreplaceable. Whether in the company, family, or secret service, Qin Ruoxi was very highly regarded. Almost everyone saw her as the future mistress of the household. However, the person whom Si Han wanted to marry previously was Yi Wan, not Qin Ruoxi. Although Si Han was scary, women were still attracted to him since he was gentle at times. She was quite moved when he ignored all the objections to marry her and gave her the status of Mrs. C. In her previous life, she'd thought about the marriage deeply. Since she couldn't change anything, she thought she should just compromise and live with the title. But the reality of it made her heart grow bitterly cold, over and over again. Judging by Qin Ruoxi's abilities, she wouldn't hurt her directly because these lowly methods would only anger Si Han. She only needed to speak a few words, and there would be numerous people willing to get their hands dirty for her. Lu Ying was one of those people. Moreover, The mere presence of this woman was enough to force her into the corner and steal her thunder. To Yi Wanwan, it wasn't the physical torture that was the scariest, but the psychological torture. If Si Han took away her freedom, this woman destroyed her personality and sense of self to the point that even if she occupied the glorified seat of Mrs. C, she lived like a canary, a puppet without any beliefs of her own. Yi Wanwan quickly suppressed the surging current beneath her eyes and greeted her like normal. "Nice to meet you, Miss Qin." The corners of Qin Ruoshi's lips curled upwards like it was the perfect timing. "Call me Ruoshi. So you're the Wanwan who Grandma's been talking about. You're just as pretty as she described. Yi Han's really lucky. This is the first time we're meeting, so here's a little gift." Following that, a servant brought a delicate little box over. It was a pair of jade bracelets. Crystal clear, full-colored, glass jade. The current market price for this was about 8 million, and its appreciation would be quite considerable in the future. She clearly knew that Yi Wanwan was Si Han's girlfriend, and Si Han had even brought her to meet Grandma already. There was no way Qin Ruoshi didn't understand the meaning of all this. However, her attitude from the beginning didn't show an ounce of jealousy at all. This should be the kind of tolerance that a real wife must have. Chapter 174. Embrace the golden thigh, thank you, Ruoshi. The bangle is beautiful. Yi Wanwan closed the box and acted like she didn't understand the value of it. As long as you like it. After Qin Ruoshi was done with her, she turned to Si Han. When she looked at Si Han, her initial formal and cold attitude was suddenly much warmer and her gaze turned gentler as well. "Yi Han, I've settled the issue over at Shun City. I'll talk over the details with you tonight." "Thanks," Si Han said indifferently, as he retracted his gaze from Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan's expression was strange when she looked at Qin Ruoshi just now. "Are you just saying that, or are you really grateful?" Qin Ruoshi raised her brows. Si Han glanced at Sui, and he immediately brought out what he'd prepared beforehand, a bottle of exquisite wine. Qin Ruoshi's eyes lit up when she saw it, the liquor that seventh brother fermented himself. "I tried bargaining for it with an ancient medical scroll that was out of print, and he refused." "How'd you get it?" "Sui got it." "You bullied Sui again, always getting him to do these challenging tasks." Yi Wanwan stood silently next to Si Han and watched as the two of them chatted away happily, closed off from all other people, including herself. At this moment, Lu Ying's excited voice came from the door. "Ms. Ruoshi, when did you arrive?" Lu Ying's eyes brightened the moment he saw Qin Ruoshi like his pillar of support had arrived. Qin Ruoshi smiled. "Not too long ago. I heard that you've recently learned a boxing skill. Can you practice with me?" "Sure." Lu Ying nodded instantly. This mischievous monkey, finding someone to spar with the moment she's back. Not womanly at all. The old madam complained with an annoyed expression, but it was obvious that her loving tone held no blame at all. The old madam must be disappointed with Si Han's choice to choose me, a girl who appeared out of nowhere, instead of Qin Ruoshi. But it was better for Si Han to be attached to someone, whoever it was, good or bad, over being single for years without being close to any woman at all. The old madam headed back to the kitchen. Yi Wanwan followed Si Han and sat down near the wooden table under the pergola. Qin Ruoshi had removed her coat and started sparring with Lu Ying. Yi Wanwan slumped down on her chair and watched the reckless and confident figures of the two sparring. During this first meeting, Qin Ruoshi had given her a show of her strength. From Si Han to the old madam, to Su Yi and Lu Ying, she was showing her sovereignty and letting Yi Wanwan know that there was no place for her by Si Han's side. It was like that in her previous life as well. Qin Ruoshi didn't do any real harm to her but forced her to feel despair. In Si Han's world, she'd been all alone, isolated, and without help. However, it was also because she was too foolish in her previous life. So what if Qin Ruoshi bribed everyone around Si Han? Yi Wanwan only needed to grab hold of one person, and she'd be invincible. Yi Wanwan propped her chin on her hand, looked at the golden thigh glistening next to her, and murmured softly, "Si Han, I want to eat some melon seeds." Si Han felt something was amiss about Yi Wanwan just now, but before he could figure it out, it was gone. He had started to size her up, But once he saw her acting coquettishly with her beautiful little face and a sweet smile, that nagging feeling seemed to just be his misperception. Yuanwan shook his arm. My arm hurts from all the homework I've done recently. Could you peel them for me, pleasey? Chapter 175. Please feed me. People who practice martial arts have pretty good hearing, and Luing was no exception. Although he was sparring with Qin Ruosu, he heard Yuanwan's words loud and clear. His moves suddenly messed up, and the anger that he'd suppressed previously finally boiled over. How dare she? She actually wants the master to do something like that? Qin Ruoshi stopped him without batting an eyelid. Luing, don't be rash, Luing said angrily. Ms. Ruoshi, even you're trying to stop me? I've had enough today. How could you not be angry at all? Qin Ruoshi looked distant and replied calmly. With Yihan's status, it's perfectly normal for him to have a few women by his side. Boo. But this woman is different. Luing rebutted anxiously. Qin Ruoshi's expression turned cold when she heard him, but she quickly regained her calmness. How is she different? Luing, remember this, she's not different at all. You don't have to take so much offense. Luing wanted to speak, but kept silent in the end, though his heart wasn't entirely at peace. How is she normal? The master actually peeled melon seeds for her. He peeled 78 of them. How could his delicate hands be used to peel melon seeds? Most importantly, there has never been a woman by master's side, but this good-for-nothing, amoral and trouble-causing woman was able to stay by his side for 2 whole years. At first, he didn't care about this woman at all, and only acted like the master found a playmate out of boredom. Who knew that the master would actually bring her to meet the old madam? The only person qualified enough for the master to introduce to the old madam was the future headmistress of the household. Why did the master bring this kind of woman to meet the old madam? Luing was on the verge of exploding, but on the other side. Yuanwan was watching as Yihan peeled the melon seeds for her, one by one. Those slender fingers forced open each melon seed swiftly, and the kernels fell into an exquisite little white porcelain bowl. As he peeled more and more, he looked more and more tempting. It couldn't be helped. Heaven can be so unfair sometimes. Some people can look so stunning just by peeling melon seeds. Although she had no choice but to use him to survive, Yuanwan also felt that she was enjoying herself. With this thought, everything seemed balanced. Sensing her stare, Yihan stopped what he was doing and lifted his head. He was met with the searing gaze of the girl. Her pupils were glistening with, "Please feed me," written all over them. After seeing her fearful, indifferent, hateful expressions, and considering the way she had shunned him for so long, her current expression was too moving, and it tempted him. Yuanwan was staring at the hands peeling the melon seeds at first, but when she noticed that they stopped moving, she looked up, unsatisfied. Why did he stop? There's not enough yet. Without waiting for Yuanwan to speak, a shadow was cast over her head, and his thin lips slowly landed on hers with a tinge of warmth. Yuanwan's eyes were wide open. She blinked and blinked, unsure what just happened. At this moment, he said in a low voice with his lips close to hers, "Who allowed you to look at me this way?" Yuanwan. What did I do? What's wrong with my gaze? I just wanted to have some melon seeds, that's all. Chapter 176. Captivated by your sex appeal. In the next second, a bang resounded not far away. Yuanwan saw the cracks in the wall next to Luing clearly. He clenched his fist tightly and glared in Yuanwan's direction. Then, without regard to Qin Ruoshi's reaction, he turned on his heels and walked away. He just left in a huff. Yuanwan. Actually, all she really wanted was to eat some melon seeds. Speaking of which, it was no wonder that Qin Ruoshi was able to reach her lofty position in the family. Even after witnessing Yihan getting intimate with her, she still maintained her composure and was consoling Luing instead. This kind of woman who was beautiful both inside and out, who was skilled in using both the pin and the rifle and wasn't easily jealous, was simply perfect. Even she thought that Yihan was blind, not to mention his henchmen and followers. Then she felt a sharp pain on her lips, and Yuanwan changed her line of thought. Ouch. What were you thinking about? The man asked unhappily when he noticed that she was distracted. Do you even need to ask? Your little Luing was so mad that he nearly crushed a wall. Didn't you see? Yi Wanwan sighed silently in her heart and muttered, I'm thinking whether there's something wrong with your taste in women. Si Han narrowed his eyes and replied casually, Tell me, what's wrong? Yi Wanwan thought about it, plucked up her courage and replied, Why don't you pick a woman who's beautiful both inside and out, skilled in using both the pin and the rifle, graceful in the hall and skilled in the kitchen? Instead, you chose a troublemaker who doesn't follow the rules and causes chaos. When Si Han heard that, he looked deeply at her. Just as Yi Wanwan's heart was getting petrified by his stare, she finally heard his casual reply with just 5 words. Captivated by your sex appeal. Yi Wanwan almost choked. This doesn't seem characteristic of a ruler, right? Who said I'm a ruler? Yi Wanwan was speechless. During dinner, Si Han was silent as usual. Qin Ruo she chatted away with the old madam about some funny incidents and made her laugh as if nothing had happened. It was obvious that Qin Ruo she was aware of the old madam's importance. Yi Wanwan knew very well that the fondness the old madam had for her was only on a surface level. The moment Qin Ruo she returned, the good impression that she had with the old madam previously had dissipated. She was already prepared for this. Qin Ruo she's place in the Si family was deep-rooted. It wasn't something that she was able to shake in a short period of time. After dinner, Yi Wanwan took out her homework and started working on the desk. Si Han had a document in his hands and flipped through it on the sofa nearby. There was a knock on the door and Qin Ruo she walked in, probably to report about work. Yi Han, about Shen City. Qin Ruo she was about to continue when she glanced at Yi Wanwan doing her homework. It was obvious with such confidential matters that Yi Wanwan should leave. Yi Wanwan was about to pack up and leave when Si Han placed the document down and looked up. Then he turned to Qin Ruo she and said one word, sit. He didn't intend for Yi Wanwan to leave at all. Yi Wanwan slowly raised her head and looked towards the 2 people sitting opposite, her heart beating faster. Actually, she wished that Si Han would allow her to leave. She didn't want to know anything about these confidential matters. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.